Call tonight's council meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Council members Benega,
Here.
Brown,
Here.
Costello,
Here.
Jameson,
Here.
Knutson,
Here.
Litz, Staggers,
Present.
Anderson.
Here. We have a quorum present for tonight's meeting. Tonight we'll have Pastor Barbara Wangsness from First Lutheran Church in Sioux Falls here lead the invocation, and after the invocation we'll have the Pledge of Allegiance. So I would ask everyone at this time to please rise.
First of all, if I may just say, it's an honor to be here with you tonight. And I consider myself a privileged in being here both as, for the old folk, so to speak, with ancestors who homesteaded here in 1873, but also the newcomers, as I'm married to a gentleman who is from a country in South America. So privileged to be here with you. Let us pray. O gracious God, we thank you once more for the beauty of this day and for the promise that you are always with us. Tonight, O Lord, we ask your continued blessing, especially on this meeting and on the needs of those who are here. We pray for safety of travel for those as they return home. Especially, O Lord, we pray for insight as different ideas and topics are brought before this important legislative branch. So we pray, O Lord, for your continued direction and guidance that this city may continue to reach out to all who come here, that we may be fully aware and responding to the demographic changes and the economic basis of our area here as well. Bless this meeting, O Lord, and all who are here. In your name we pray. Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have a proclamation for National Public Works Week, so I'd ask Mark Cotter, Director of Public Works, and Kevin Smith to come on up, Assistant Director of Public Works, Chad Huey, City Engineer, Bob Capel, is Bob here? Bob's here, I see. Environmental Compliance Manager, Dave McElroy, the Sanitary Landfill Superintendent, Galen Huber, Street and Utility Manager, and Randy Jensen, Water Superintendent, and Trent Livers from Wastewater Superintendent. Okay. The proclamation reads, whereas public works services provided in our community are an integral part of our citizens' everyday lives, whereas the support of an understanding and informed citizenry is vital to the efficient operation of public works system and programs such as water, sewers, streets and highways, public buildings, and solid waste disposal. Whereas the health and safety and comfort of this community greatly depends on these facilities and services. Whereas revitalizing, reinvesting in, and renewing our community's infrastructure will ensure safety, sustained performance, and a positive quality of life. Whereas the quality and effectiveness of these facilities, as well as their planning, design, and construction, is vitally dependent upon the efforts and skills of public works officials. Whereas the efficiency of the qualified and dedicated personnel who staff Public Works Department is materially influenced by the people's attitude and understanding of importance of the work they perform. Now I, therefore, Dave Munson, Mayor of the City of Sioux Falls, do hereby proclaim May 17th to the 23rd, 2009, as National Public Works Week in Sioux Falls, and I call upon all citizens and civic organizations to acquaint themselves with the issues involved in providing our public works and to recognize the contributions which the public works officials make every day to our health, safety, comfort, and quality of life. And thank you for what you guys all do. Okay. Got the consent agenda. It would be noted that that the Councilmember Costello will be excused from the consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I so move Knutson.
Is there a second?
Second, Brown.
Brown seconds. Further comments? Not. All in favor of approving the consent agenda, vote yes. Those opposed, no, please.
Councilmembers Benega?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
Jamison?
Yes.
Knutson?
Yes.
Litz?
Yes.
Staggers?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
All members present have voted. The consent agenda approved, 7 yes, 1 excused. Now, is there a motion to approve the regular agenda?
So moved, Benninga.
Benninga moves. Is there a second?
Second, Litz.
Litz seconded. Are there further motions? Go ahead.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I move that we take item 22 off the agenda this evening and assign it to the Land Use Committee.
Assign it to who?
To the Land Use Committee.
To the Land Use Committee. Okay,
Second, Costello.
Costello seconded. Further comments on the motion to take item number 22 off and refer that to the Land Use Committee? We've got a motion made, second. Go ahead.
Yeah. For the audience, what this is dealing with is new regulations on campgrounds. What happened at the May 6th Planning Commission meeting, there was a lot of controversy over it, and it was a 3-3 tie vote that had to be broken by the chair. This was brought for a first reading tonight. However, it did not go through City Council committee, so that's what we're doing tonight, is simply taking it off the agenda and having it instead go to the Land Use Committee.
Is it okay with the maker of the motion that we set that hearing date? I think that the time you meet is June 29th. Is that an acceptable date to the maker of the motion?
I guess I was going to keep it open-ended because we're not quite sure about the schedule
Are
for
you
the
going to
Land
have a
Use Committee.
special meeting for that then? Are you not putting the regular meeting? You aren't going to have it at your regular meeting?
We're going to have it.
Go ahead.
Yes.
Mr. Mayor, we were going to postpone or to cancel next week's informational meeting.
Right.
So then we could move this to the end of June, I think would be the first chance to.
The next time you meet after that is June 29th,
Yeah.
so is that acceptable, or?
Well, I just rather have it open-ended and because we might have
You can
more
call-
than
you can
one
call a
land
special
use
meeting.
meeting. I don't know.
The end of June would be the first time we could get it into committee, so
Yeah.
we would need a little time after that.
Yeah, so we'd have to have it in July maybe.
I'd like to remind the chair that didn't we just transfer the hearing on the residential fire sprinklers to the June 29th meeting? And I think with the controversy ensuing that, it'll probably eat up all of that. So Mr. Staggers may be right that I would suggest that July may be the more appropriate one.
So you're going to move it out to July?
I
If you want to
guess
leave it
if-
open, that's fine, but you're going to have to find a date to slot it in.
Kermit, are you okay with July?
If that's the wishes of my colleagues.
What's the date of that? July what? 27th? That'd be July 27th. Is that okay with the maker of the motion?
That's fine.
Is that okay with the second? Yep. Okay, so the maker of the motion and then the second has said July 27th for Land Use Committee to hear item number 22. Further comments? Seeing no further comments, all in favor of that motion, vote yes. Those opposed, no.
Councilmembers Benega?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
Costello?
Yes.
Jamison?
Yes.
Knutson?
Yes.
Litz?
Yes.
Staggers?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
That motion has been accepted, 8-0. Now we're back to the regular agenda. Motion been made, second further motions. Seeing no further motion, all in favor of approving the regular agenda with item number 2 being deferred until July, vote yes. Those opposed, no.
Councilmembers Benega?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
Costello?
Yes.
Jamison?
Yes.
Knutson?
Yes.
Litz?
Yes.
Staggers?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
All members present have voted. The regular agenda has been approved 8-0, and item 22 will be July 27th. Now, this is a time we set aside for anyone that wishes to address the council for a period of 5 minutes. We ask them to give their name and their address, and anyone wishing to address the council for public input, I'd ask them to come forward at this time. Seeing no one that is coming forward, we will move into the regular agenda, so we will move into item 11.
Transfer of a 2009 retail liquor license from MMLK Inc., The Brass Rail, 1213 North Cliff Avenue, to One Sage LLC Toppers to be operated at 1213 North Cliff Avenue, including video lottery terminals. 12, transfer of a 2008-09 packaged malt beverage license from Come and Go LC, Come and Go number 617, 2101 West 49th Street to Cubby's Inc., Cubby's West 49th, to be operated at 2101 West 49th Street. 13, transfer of a 2008-09 packaged malt beverage license from Come and Go LC, Come and Go number 621, 1900 West 12th Street to Cubby's Inc., Cubby's West 12, to be operated at 1900 West 12th Street. 14, transfer of a 2008-09 packaged malt beverage license from Come and Go LC, Come and Go number 619, 4700 West 12th Street to Cubby's Inc., Cubby's West 12, truck stop to be operated at 4700 West 12th Street. 15, transfer of a 2008-09 packaged malt beverage license from Come and Go LC, Come and Go number 613, 3420 North Cliff Avenue to Cubby's Inc., Cubby's North Cliff to be operated at 3420 North Cliff Avenue. 16, special one-day malt beverage license for Ronald McDonald House Charities of South Dakota, Inc., to be operated at the 8th and Railroad Center parking lot on June 27, 2009 for the Beer Dabbler Beer Fest fundraiser. 17, special one-day malt beverage and special one-day wine licenses to be operated on Phillips Avenue in the street closure area between 2nd and 6th Street on July 25, 2009 for the Irish Fest. Number 18, various retail malt beverage, and packaged malt beverage South Dakota Farm Winery license renewals for 2009-2010 to be operated at various locations in the city of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, identified as Exhibit A.
Thank you, Jamie. Lori Hogshead with the City Attorney's Office, representing items 11 through 18. Item 18, I just want to bring to your attention, is our first exhibit for renewals for retail malt beverage, packaged malt beverage, and our new packaged malt beverage South Dakota winery licenses. The only item that we need to approve with stipulations on Exhibit A would be for Trifecta Holdings, LLC, name to be determined, at 41st and T. Ellis Road, and this would be pending final inspections per Fire, Health, and Building Services. We will have another group of renewals in 2 weeks. That will be the big group, and at that time, we will have those businesses with underage sales in the past year, and then we will follow that 2 weeks later with the those that have come in past deadline. So we will have two more sets, Exhibit B and Exhibit C, and the first one is up for tonight, Exhibit A.
Questions? Others that wish to address the council on any items that we've had, is it 11 to 18? Not?
Move for approval, Benega, of items 11 through 18.
Benega moves approvals, or second?
Second, Anderson.
Anderson seconds. The motion is to approve items 11 through 18. Any comments on that motion? Being none, all in favor of that motion, vote yes. Those opposed, no.
Councilmembers Benega?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
Costello?
Yes.
Jamison?
Yes.
Knutson?
Yes.
Litz?
Yes.
Staggers?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
All members present voted. Items 11 through 18 have been approved. Item 19.
Second reading, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, authorizing the issuance of its sales tax revenue bonds in one or more series, authorizing the use of the proceeds thereof to pay the costs of construction and equipping of the West Side Branch Library to be located west of the Interstate Highway I-29, improvements on and equipping of the River Greenway, construction and equipping of the Youth Sports Complex to be located at the intersection of Westport Avenue and Benson Road, and improvements and equipment for the city's zoo, pledging the sales and use tax proceeds of the city to the payment of said sales tax revenue bonds, fixing the terms of such sales tax revenue bonds, authorizing the execution and delivery of one or more supplemental indentures between the city and the First National Bank in Sioux Falls, and authorizing the sale, execution, and delivery of such sales tax revenue bonds in an amount not to exceed $18.5 million plus costs of issuance and debt service reserve funds.
Mr. Mayor, Gene Roanhorst, Director of Finance for the City of Sioux Falls. This is an ordinance that has been before the council before, dealing with the issuance of $18.5 million worth of bonds that will have a life up to 20 years with a maximum interest rate of 6%. We have a real quick overview, just to refresh everybody's memory. Can you give me the first slide? There's $18.5 million. $4.3 million will go to the West Side Library. $5 million will go for Greenway improvements. $4.2 million will go for Youth Sport Complex, and $2.5 million will go for master plan improvements for the zoo. And the remainder is capitalized interest and contingency rates. Can you give me the next slide? What we're going to do is let each of the departments that are involved in this transaction give you a real short summary of what's up there, and then we'll answer questions.
Okay.
Good evening. Sally Felix with Siouxland Libraries. The need for a branch library west of Interstate I-29, Mike Cooper told me today, actually was identified back in 1997. I know we've been talking about it since I've been here, but it certainly had been talked about prior to that, and it was part of the city's development of the 2015 Development and Growth Plan. The Planning Department has said, you want to flip over, Steve? Thank you. The Planning Department has estimated that there will be about 55,000 people living west of I-29 by 2015. This is almost the size of Rapid City. I've talked to you about how busy the Cayley Branch Library is and how much use we have of the Cayley Branch by people who live west of I-29, and how we really are maxing out our capacity to provide good service from that branch. The West Side Branch is being proposed to be located at Memorial Park. Our plans are to do the design in 2010, to begin construction in 2011, finish in 2012, and open in the summer of 2012. And as Jean mentioned, our cost is $4.3 million.
Okay, let's move on then.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council members. Don Kearney with Parks and Recreation. As a reminder, next slide, please. This project is proposed would construct 12 new multi-purpose athletic fields, and the primary purpose of this new project is to accommodate the growth of the junior football program. The complex obviously would allow us to provide additional opportunities for other teams that would like to participate. The project would also leverage $4.5 million in private investment. That would be the $3 million in land donation from Sanford and the proposed $1.5 million worth of improvements that would be done by the junior football organization. As a recap for the construction schedule, in 2009 we would propose to do the site grading and the sewer line installation. In 2010 we plan to do the street and the field improvements, and then those field improvements would continue on in 2011, which would primarily consist of sidewalks and other landscaping type improvements. And then in 2012, in the fall of 2012, we would plan to begin play. The next slide just kind of highlights the overall concept plan. Westport is the north-south street. The southern east-west street is Benson Road. And I wanted to highlight for you the 8 fields that we plan to install irrigation on. The other 4 fields to the east would be for additional growth. I would also remind everyone that we plan to do the grading of the entire site, and so those 4 fields to the east of the 8 we plan to start using in the fall of 2012 would actually be graded. They'd be seeded, but we just would install irrigation or any of the other improvements at the onset of the program in 2012, but they would be available for the growth of the program. And then the parking immediately adjacent to the 8 fields would also be installed by 2012. And then as a follow-up to Councilmember Stagger's question about what the cost for the irrigation would be, the estimate is between $120,000 and $160,000 for the irrigation.
Go ahead.
Yeah, Don, I just assume we still have not officially got the land from Sanford.
That's correct.
And when is that supposed to take place? After we deal with this issue, or?
You know, we've been working on a memorandum of understanding between Sanford and South Dakota Junior Football to process how all this is going to transpire. Obviously, a key decision is tonight on our ability to expedite that agreement between Sanford and South Dakota Junior Football. But I would imagine by the middle of summer that would take place.
Pat?
Don, on the construction schedule in 2009, you've got site grading and sanitary sewer installation. Is the sanitary sewer installation being paid for out of this $4.3 million?
No, it's not.
Okay. And then site grading, do you have any idea on what the cost is for that?
We don't yet. I know Sanford is undertaking some design services through JSA to do some preliminary work on that, but I don't think we have a cost estimate at this time, and how that proportionate share would be split amongst the parties. But we do have grading in our cost estimate for the fields themselves and the property that ultimately would be transferred to the city.
But isn't that what we're talking about?
That is.
And you don't know what those costs are?
We have, well, I have a cost breakdown, an estimate of excavation, and there's a lot of miscellaneous costs in there too, but we have excavation as one item in the budget for $303,000. And we have BMP, storm sewer, sanitary sewer for the site improvements within the complex. And so that's the number we have on excavation.
So in the grand scope of things, that is not a lot of work relative to the whole project?
I would say it's a significant amount, but it's not the largest item in there. You know, some of the buildings and some of the parking lot improvements would be the majority of that cost, because parking is also part of the cost estimate.
Yeah, if it's out of $4.2 million, if you're telling me the excavation's only $300,000 of it, I would say that's probably a nominal part of it, isn't it?
Yeah, of the total it is. Yeah, the parking lots and the buildings, the paving, but there's also seating, obviously all those other curb and gutter, other items. I have a cost estimate if you'd like to see it, I guess. But.
Maybe later.
Okay.
Okay, go ahead.
Yes, Don, on the slide up there, you have down different facilities. For example, C is a green event space, D, youth hockey complex, E, youth tennis complex. Then you also have A, which is a large chunk of land, future public and private development. Has there been any discussion about that land?
The land in the northwest corner of the site is the land that the county currently owns. which is also labeled A. Which A
Yes,
are you talking about?
the northeast one.
The northeast site has been, I know there's been discussion about possible, a variety of different uses for that, possible Howard Wood relocation to that site as well. A lot of different ideas are currently being discussed as part of the whole event center discussion, which I'm not a part of, but I know that's been discussed in the past.
And also, if I could just ask one other question, on the slide you have down Sanford Youth Sports Complex, so that, it's already been named, or is that just kind of a tentative name?
It's a tentative name. That's what we're calling it for the purpose of discussion with the MOU. If it is named that, obviously that would have to come back to the city council for your approval.
Okay, you want to move on to the zoo?
Good evening, Elizabeth Whaley, Great Plains Zoo. The projects that you're looking at for the zoo help us to implement phases of the zoo master plan that was put in front of you in 2007 and gained council resolution in 2007. This looks at two different projects, the rhino relocation project, which really is a very much needed project. Rhinos are currently housed in a 45-year-old part of the zoo that really is not hanging in there that well. It had not had the kind of maintenance it should have had over the years. It also is a barn that was designed for zebras, and so zebras are a much different animal than rhinos. We need to get them into a better care situation. We need to give them exercise yards so they can be outside. The second project is the Gateway to the Zoo, and both of those were included in our master plan. The Gateway to the Zoo not only provides for curb appeal for the zoo to entice more visitors to come see us, but also it really helps us run our business better. It helps us process admissions and memberships, helps us capture retail revenue. It really also helps us manage those Delbridge animals, the mounted collection of animals, which really is a one-in-the-world gem that we have right here in Sioux Falls and we need to care for. You know that there is significant private funding that will follow your investment to build the city's assets. And this vote will reassure the business community that the city is a partner in building the city's assets at the zoo. We have been given a unique opportunity to raise money through the Chamber Appeals process in 2010. We've been approved for a slot that they believe the business community will help us raise money that will total about $2.4 million. And that needs to be matched. So we will be doing additional funding from private donors and foundation donors. So that total project is about $5 million. So actually, our private funds that we raise will more than match city funds dollar for dollar. In fact, this gives us an opportunity for the city to leverage about $4 to $5 million in private funds, and that includes foundation funding, individual donor funding. And then one of the big things for us is that as part of our master plan, we really looked at a lot of operational forecasting and did a lot of business planning, and those business plans were part of the approval process with the master plan. It's kind of our roadmap, and so all of our operating funds that we forecasted out several years really are dependent on our building these phases out in the time frames that we had agreed upon.
You're in the 2010 Chamber Appeal. There was some discussion earlier amongst us earlier today that there was a significant amount of money that's already been raised. Is that?
There is already $1 million assembled on the Rhino project, so we need to put that donor money to work.
Is that now? Does that count towards the chamber raise, or is that in addition?
The Gateway to the Zoo is the Chamber Appeals campaign that we'll be mounting in 2010, and we're already working on. The Rhino project is a separate project, and so we have 2006 CIP money that we need to use in this process, and then there's a remaining $1 million that we're waiting to hear on tonight.
Okay. When do you anticipate starting that Chamber Appeals?
The Chamber Appeals fundraising window is the very beginning of January 2010.
Okay.
But we are in the quiet campaign phase right now.
Okay. Thank you.
Kenny?
Thank you for having us over there this afternoon. It was
My pleasure.
Sort of eye-opening. with the Rhino relocation, I take it that is the primary focus right now, is to get that completed, especially with the monies that you have available?
Yes, we have donor funds in place. We have the design completed, so we have a great deal of momentum toward that project. They also are not in a great animal care situation. We need to move those animals in order to fulfill the mission of a zoo a little bit better than we're fulfilling it in regard to rhinos today. But another piece that's very important in getting the rhino project moving is that it sits right in the middle of all the other projects that we need to accomplish in relationship to our master plan. So as we look at the phases that we need to accomplish, the rhino relocation is the very first one.
Okay. If there's disagreement and we take a look at maybe amending some of these projects, how much would you need to complete that from the city? That rhino project is what I'm looking at.
We need that $1 million. We are at the point where we're ready to begin the project. We've done private fundraising. We also have additional asks out in front of large foundations, but we need that to move forward.
So the
We need
entire
the $1 million that's
2.5
included
or
in
the
this.
$1 million to match what you have?
The $2.5 million includes $1.5 for the Gateway project,
Okay.
and that's $1.5 of about a $5 million project, the Gateway. But the Rhino relocation project is $3.1 for the base building and exhibit, and we need that final $1 million that will be decided tonight.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Let's go with the River Greenway.
Good evening, I'm Mike Cooper, representing Planning and Building Services. The River Greenway improvements that are being proposed tonight as part of the bond issue are really a long-range planning process that we've been working on for some time. Back in 2004, through a large amount of public input and public review, the City Council adopted a new River Greenway master plan that included not only the downtown area, but also the entire circle of the Big Sioux River, as well as Skunk Creek that goes around our city. In 2006, the City Council approved an agreement, a ZIP option agreement, in conjunction with the redevelopment of the old ZIP feed mill site on the east side of the Big Sioux River between 6th Street and 8th Street. As part of that agreement, the city indicated that we would eventually develop and construct the River Greenway according to the master plan, that we would acquire and deed railroad property to the adjacent property owners on the west and east sides of the Big Sioux River, and that we would construct a walking bridge connecting both sides of the river concurrent with construction of the Greenway. And that's, to this day, we have acquired the abandoned railroad bridge, and we have worked with the property owners on both sides to deed the right-of-way up to 6th Street along Raven Industries and down to 8th Street along the Sharapa Place development. The partnerships that we've entered into, as I mentioned, with the adjoining property owners. On the east bank, there's already been a substantial private investment of over $25 million with the Sharapa Place office building. And that's really the first phase of additional redevelopment that is really contingent upon the Greenway, with additional plans for retail, office, and entertainment type uses along that east bank of the Big Sioux River. And Raven Industries is also working on us to invest private money into a walking trail on the west side of the Big Sioux River that would extend through their existing parking lot up to 6th Street, that would provide a connector to Falls Park and to the north end of the River Greenway, as well as the connection to the proposed bridge that would be part of this bond issue. The funding increase that we're looking at tonight is about $5 million, and that's based on more recent cost estimates for the east bank of the Big Sioux River from 6th to 8th Street. And the community priority, through the discussions that we've had going back to 2004 and the agreement that we entered into in 2006 with a commitment that we would construct the Greenway in a timely manner in conjunction with a private investment. And now tonight, we have an opportunity to continue on with this project. And so we know that there's been a lot of discussions, even if the council has been involved with the public, that this is a very high priority for the community. The next slide just shows a quick overview of a concept plan that we've been using to come up with our cost estimate. And on the left side is 6th Street, on the right side is 8th Street, and at the top of the map would be the East Bank that shows a concept of what we would like to accomplish with the $5 million of investment by the city. The 2004 master plan actually showed the potential for renovation of the railroad bridge into a pedestrian walkway, along with the construction of a second bridge that would connect over to Sharapa Place. We have now changed that idea to going just with one bridge instead of two. Back in 2006, as we began to work with the Corps of Engineers and FEMA on the implementing the master plan, we were told that the existing railroad bridge could not be converted to a pedestrian walkway because the elevation of the bridge acts as a flood impediment today. So if we kept that bridge as it is today and just renovated it, we would not be able to construct the rest of the greenway improvements because they do encroach into the floodplain and the floodway area of the river. So that brought us back to the idea that we had to remove the existing structure and look at constructing a brand-new pedestrian walkway, which is what we're recommending for the bond issue tonight. On the left side of the map, it shows the walkway that would extend through the Raven parking lot up to 6th Street, and on the right side, the walkway that has already been constructed down to 8th Street. The west bank of this area shows future development that we would like to implement through the tax increment financing that will be generated from the Sharapa Place redevelopment. And then the next two slides, the next slide is one that we just took that shows you the substantial private investment that Raven Industries is undertaking along that west bank over to 6th Street. They're going to be constructing about $160,000 pedestrian walkway through this area that will be available for public use. And Raven Industries will maintain that property as well. The next two slides just show you from the Greenway Master Plan when the public was asked what they would like to see in the downtown section of the Greenway. The top 10 priorities were identified as riverside dining, more pedestrian river crossings, an amphitheater, which we are proposing to expand down in the Faywick Park area, a downtown river walk, more sculpture, more attractive bridge treatments, outdoor markets, more opportunities for expansion of the bike trail, entertainment areas, and an urban river edge. And so that's the ideas that we've been using to come up with our concept plan. Thank you. Any questions for me?
Mike, you said that the increase in cost, the doubling of costs from $2.5 million to $5 million is because of updated costs.
I should also clarify that the original cost only went down from 6th Street to the railroad bridge. It did not go all the way down to 8th Street.
Okay. So other than the change of the railroad bridge, not using it as a pedestrian bridge, has there been any other significant changes in the River Greenway plan for this section?
No. If we go back to the kind of the vision, go back. There you go. You know, this is a little bit different than the 2004 plan, but I would say in terms of a concept, it really mirrors those top 10 activities that we identified back in 2004. And of course, this particular plan is subject to final approval by the Corps of Engineers and FEMA, but we believe that this is what the public has said that they would like to see implemented as part of the Greenway plan for the downtown area.
On the bridge, then, the flood credits, what do we need those for?
The east side and the west side shoreline improvements will encroach into the current floodplain and floodway. If you go out there today, all that you see is the asphalt bike trail and kind of a natural-looking shoreline. What we would like to do with this is create more of an urban river edge, create more trails, more walkways, more amenities. In order for us to do that, we have to get credit for the encroachment by raising and increasing the height of the current railroad crossing.
I guess the question I'm having is that this plan is significantly different than the 2004 River Greenway plan, because you're showing an amphitheater here, which originally is located at Faywick Park.
I would say that that's not an amphitheater, but it's an outdoor entertainment area. This is much smaller than the one that would be at Faywick Park.
So is that one continuing to, or is that the plan?
Yes, we would like to
continue have that
yes,
there?
we would like to continue to pursue that as well as a future phase.
What does what's different on the east side then from the 2004 River Greenway plan?
Again, this is just more of a refined design. In 2004, the Sharapa Place building was not there, and so now we've designed this portion in conjunction with the Sharapa Place development. So there are some changes to the design features in that area that we didn't have in the 2004 plan.
Others? Kenny?
Okay, Mike. With that bridge, again, you stated that we need to remove that bridge to get the credits. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And just to go over my numbers again, what is the projected cost for removing that bridge?
Well, in our cost estimate, and it's really an estimate at this point of the $5 million, we've identified the cost of replacing the bridge, and it is an estimate at this time. We're showing about just over $700,000.
Okay, I was showing about $840,000.
Okay, the 700 is for the replacement of a new bridge, and then design and removal of the current bridge. So that's the total for both items.
Okay. Go ahead.
Yeah, just to clarify that a little bit, Mike, you said around $800,000 to remove the bridge.
That's, okay, the number that you have is...
Be about $140,000 to remove the bridge, $700,000 to put in the walkway.
Right. That's the total for removing the current bridge and constructing a new one.
Okay. And how much would the cost be if we just built a pedestrian bridge over the old railroad bridge?
If we did that, we would not be able to do the greenway improvements at all.
Well, we'd have to do them differently. We could still do greenway improvements.
It would basically look like it does today with a trail.
But
and
how
a
much
natural
would
shoreline.
How much? Do you have any idea how much it would cost just to simply put down a pedestrian bridge across the old railroad bridge? I mean, right now we're thinking $769,900 for the.
Yep. No, we haven't done a cost estimate because it's.
I mean, that's a lot for a pedestrian bridge.
It's a long span, and when we've done bike trail bridges, those are in the range of $200,000 to $400,000 you can spend on just a bike trail crossing, depending on the length of it.
Also, up by the Southeast Tech, I think that bridge across the interstate was what, $750,000?
I don't remember the
something
dollar
like
amount.
that.
Yeah.
So we're spending lots of money on bridges here, but I'm also curious about what is this pedestrian walk over the Storm at Hotel at $15,000? What is that?
I'm not sure what you're reading.
It's from the planning department, the breakdown of the costs for the Greenway. It's something pedestrian walk over Storm at Hotel. Doesn't make any sense to me. Does anybody know what that is?
Can you point to the Country Inn and Suites? There's a storm drainage inlet through that area that we would have to construct a new crossing over, down by the Country Inn and Suites.
Okay. So
that's what that is.
That's $15,000 for that. Then this amphitheater at Sharapa, it looks like $55,000. How many people would be able to be in that amphitheater?
I don't have that estimate. That's the area that was circled on there. It's Again, it's not a large amphitheater that would hold hundreds of people. It's a relatively small structure.
And then we also have furnishings, benches and trash cans. That's $95,000.
Right.
For 2 miles. Or, I shouldn't say 2 miles, 2 blocks. That's a lot of benches and trash cans for 2 blocks on the East Bank.
Greg?
Well, I guess, and then finally, I guess, in regard to the river channel management preparation, the $600,000 for that, is that just to stabilize the bank or to put in concrete? Or what
Yes,
is that?
it's to create more of the river urban edge to the East
Okay.
Bank, which is what the public has said that they would like to see.
But one final thing, you know, when you mentioned the concept plan that you came up with, these suggestions from citizens, I think I agreed with every one of them. But the thing is, we never put any cost figures to those, and that's kind of tricky when you say, would you like an amphitheater? Sure, I'd like an amphitheater, but you never say how much it's going to cost. Once you start putting numbers to this, then people might have different opinion. And so I guess I'm a little concerned that, yes, I think most citizens of Sioux Falls would like this, but not at any cost.
Greg?
Mike, the 2 blocks here that we're looking to finish off at $5 million, the finish level that you have in these 2 blocks, if we were to continue that throughout downtown, would we still be spending $2.5 million per block, or would you see the level going down, or is there some value elsewhere?
I would say that based, again, on the Greenway plan, that this would be the most probably intense area of redevelopment, that it would probably scale down as you go north towards Falls Park and then south toward Nelson Park, or towards the Faywick Park, I should say.
Well, I guess why is it more intense? Why is this particular spot more intense?
Because you have the level of redevelopment on the east side is going to be, you know, pretty spectacular. I think it already is pretty spectacular. And you just have more opportunity given the shore or the slope of the area. You have a lot more opportunity in this area for major activities, major events, and major redevelopment that would complement the Greenway system itself. The next area that I think has the greatest potential would be going south of 8th Street along the Shoneman's redevelopment site. And so we hope to have some redevelopment there as well that would complement the private investment along that area.
Kenny?
Mike, as we discussed last week, a lot of this development here is under contract and has deadlines on it. Is that correct?
Okay, if you're asking about the agreement, the original agreement said that the city would develop and construct the Greenway by 2008 in the fall, that we would acquire indeed the railroad right-of-way by January of '07, and that we would construct the walking bridge connecting the 2 sides concurrent with the construction of the Greenway. We have been able to get an extension on the construction because it has taken us 3 years to acquire the railroad bridge from the Burlington Northern Santa Fe Railroad.
What about your landscaping? You couldn't do that until the bridge, is that correct?
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah, the first step is really looking at the removal of the bridge.
I guess what I was saying is the paperwork that we had last week basically had showed deadlines for each stage except for the bridge.
Well, the bridge in the agreement, and I didn't have this at the first reading, it specifically says in the agreement that the walkway will be done concurrently with the Greenway improvements.
If we just removed the bridge, we'd get the credits from the Corps, correct? And we would be able to do the landscaping. Is that
Yeah, we have to remove the bridge to continue on with the Greenway
Right.
improvements, yes.
But we would get the credits from the Corps, and then we could do the landscaping, just by removing the bridge.
Yeah, I would say it's more than landscaping, but yes, we could begin to implement the project.
Thank you.
But I think, again, without doing the bridge, we would be in violation of our agreement with Zip City Partners.
Okay, thank you. Let's go
Thank you.
with the issues.
Mr. Mayor, I have a question.
Okay. Pat?
Mike,
Yes.
this River Greenway plan was done in 2004. and the Sharapa plans were done in 2006. So I presume that the developers had a copy of the 2004 River Greenway plan?
Yes.
So then they had the plan, and they built their development, and now we have to spend significantly more to do more River Greenway because of that? Because it wasn't, you said that they were not, that we didn't have their plans when the 2004 River Greenway came in. I'm having a hard time with that.
I think I know where you're trying to go with this. We did have in the 2004, we had a very generalized estimate of the entire Greenway corridor of the different improvements. But not knowing when they might be constructed, it really didn't mean a lot because it could be 1 year, it could be 10 years before they were. So again, it was more of a concept of ideas based on the public input of what they would like to see downtown. And when Sharapa Place came forward, they agreed to work with the same consultant that we've been working on some of the design ideas. So I don't think we can characterize it as a major change from the concepts of 2004. I think there's a lot of similarities.
Well, I don't know, Mike. I've got the plan right here, and it seems like it's a lot different to me. I don't know. The cost doubled. To me, it's a very detailed plan, and I'm not sure why we're not following the plan.
Well, I think we are. Again, every time you design something, you get more detail and more input on what you'd like to see happen.
How much of this work will happen in 2009?
Well, if we approve the bond issue, then we would work on the demolition of the existing bridge and the design of the new one, and then the permitting process to get the Greenway improvements through the final permitting process.
Don't get me wrong. I think the city absolutely has to live up to its agreement with ZIP Partners. I just would like to see it live up to the agreement that was laid out in the 2004 River Greenway plan.
Okay, let's go with the issuance.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council. I'm Jessica Cameron with PFM, the city's financial advisor for bond issuance. And I apologize up front for my voice. Most of these graphs are in a similar format to what you've seen before. This first graph shows the total debt pledged that carries the pledge from the second penny sales tax. This actually goes back to 2000, so it provides a historical perspective as well. The green dotted line is the policy coverage target of 2 times. As you can see, back actually before, from 2000 through 2006, the city was much closer to its policy coverage target than it is currently or would be after the issuance of both the flood control project and the quality of life 2 bonds if that ordinance passes. The next slide focuses solely on the debt that is paid from the second penny pledge. The gray outline, of course, provides a picture of includes the debt that has the second penny pledge, but it's really that yellow and moving into red section combined with the blue and green that shows the debt actually paid from the second penny proceeds. Again, debt was actually higher or about the same from 2001 through 2005, kind of skipping the peak year of 2006 and 2007. The peak year and then valley that followed it. Just as a comparison of the amount of debt you paid back in 2000, you paid $7.3 million worth of debt from the second penny pledge. That was out of total proceeds of $27.8 million. Based upon projections for both the flood control project and quality of life 2 bonding, you would look at $11 million, a little less than $11 million paid in debt service out of $43 million, $43.5 million of second penny proceeds. And that is using last year's numbers, so that is no increase whatsoever or projections for sales tax growth. The next page, just quickly. As you know, a portion of the flood control project is payable by the Army Corps of Engineers, and while they did not agree to give you the money up front, they have traditionally paid a little bit over $2 million annually towards that project. Assuming that they pay $2 million annually until they have repaid their portion of the flood control project associated with the levee, your peak debt service actually would occur this year, kind of going forward at $9.5 million. Your actual debt service paid would be less after both of these bonds were issued, and definitely lower than what you paid in debt service from 2001 through 2005. And then the final slide really provides this information when you look at it on a historic basis, what portion of the second penny you've used to actually pay debt service and what portion you have had available for other expenditures, whether they be capital projects or other funding of the city. Skipping again 2006 and 2007 because you repaid some bonds early in 2006, causing the blip and then the drop off in 2007. Your highest point was in 2000. You had 74% of your sales tax collections available after you paid for your debt service. The low point occurred in 2002, where you had 63.5% of your sales tax collections available after you paid debt service. Assuming the issuance of both the flood control project and the quality of life 2 bonds, when that debt service came on board, you would have 75%, or $32.5 million of your sales tax collections still available. Again, this includes no projection for growth from last year's sales tax figures. If we included the $2 million for the core payments that we would anticipate they would continue to make, you would look at almost 80% of the sales, actually a little more than 80% of the sales tax collections being available for other projects, other things that the city wants to pay in that year.
Go ahead, Brad.
Jessica, that dip in the debt service, 2006, 2007, you talked about us paying off debt early. Can you remind us what that was about?
It was you had the 1999 bonds, so you had an existing debt service reserve fund, plus some additional monies in the CIP, I believe. And so rather than allowing it to go into 2007, you just had the money on hand to redeem those bonds.
And if you don't know,
2006.
maybe Gene can help us. Which projects were included in that 1999?
That included projects like the stadium and the zoo, the original zoo financing.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Do you know how much interest we pay off of our second penny bonds, all of them collectively?
Currently,
And I'm happy with an estimate.
solely those paid from the second penny or including ones pledged by the second penny?
I would assume you'd have the pledged ones as well.
The pledged ones as well? About $5.5 million annually. And that includes, most noticeably, about $3.1 million, which is paid for water projects that are actually paid by water revenues. So that would include the Lewis and Clark project.
Thank you.
Yes. The last time we had this briefing, you were assuming that the interest we would be paying on the quality of life bonds would be 4.5%, is that right?
It's a little less than 4.5%, and if that's a TIC, so that includes underwriter's discount. And actually, based upon current rates, I left the numbers at the 4.4 to keep it conservative, but based on current rates, I would expect it to be closer to 4%, possibly even a little less.
Okay, thank you.
Go ahead.
Okay, you were stating different percentages of the, that we were at after debt services,
Yes.
and that was based on what amount for sales tax return?
That was based upon your the second penny proceeds that you had, less your debt service that you paid from that.
From like last year, I guess that's where I was going with this.
Oh, going forward, yes, based upon last year's collections of
Have you-
$43.5 million.
Okay. Have you taken a look at our returns for this year so far?
I believe you are up a little bit. I've not taken specific look at your existing, because we went with the most conservative scenario, which was a no-growth scenario.
Just one quick question. If we would get this at 4%, how much interest would we pay then over the 20 years?
Over the 20 years, excuse me while I flip. In net interest, you would pay a little less than, well, right around $8.5 million.
8.5 million. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Just one more question.
Yes.
If we pass this bond tonight, that'll put the city at what number as far as, what do we have for bonds? Maybe Eugene can answer that, or?
Total amount outstanding. We've got,
Exactly. What's your question? What would we
Okay.
have outstanding?
Right. If we accept this tonight and we add the 18.5 million, what is the city going to be looking at debt at that time? And what are we
Right.
going to be paying for interest on that debt yearly?
Okay, you've got total debt outstanding and approved at this point of $320 million. This would add $18.5 million to that number. That's what you would have outstanding.
Okay, and could you give me an estimate on what we would pay in interest on that per year?
Well, 4% would be 8, a little under 750. About 750,000 a year. That's on a straight line basis. Of course, that's actually going to decline because you're reducing your outstanding balance every year.
Right, and the existing bonds that we have out there, none of those are going to start dropping off until about 2015, is that correct?
2014 is when the billion, but that's entertainment tax, so, and that we've actually not seen up here.
But Gene, there are really two buckets that we're talking about there, correct? There's the debt that is against the second penny, which is more like $82 million, and the rest is paid off with fees from water, sewer, and those kind of things. It's important to distinguish that.
What you've got, that $320 million, that is all of the debt that you have outstanding today. But in that $320 million, $126 million of that is handled by the sales taxes as far as payments go. And the difference, $194 million, is the piece that is covered by other entities, primarily the enterprise funds, water and water rec, for user services.
Gene, in that sheet, if that's off of the April financial statements that shows the 321 in debt, if I added that up right, it looked like about 195 million of the 325 or 321, which would be 60% of that debt has come onto the books in the last less than 30 months.
Yeah, but you're throwing in things like Lewis and Clark, which is huge.
No, and I'm not, don't get
And
me
you're
wrong,
throwing- you're throwing
I'm
in-
not
and
for
you're
a
throwing-
minute saying that those were not good projects. I think I voted for many of those, not all of them, but the point is that we've accumulated 60% of our current debt in the last less than 30 months.
And you put in 38 million, along with the 70 million for Lewis and Clark, you put in 38 million for the storm drainage, or the levees. So,
But
you got a couple big deals that went through.
Right. I guess the point is that that's a significant amount of debt that we've taken on in the last 30 months, and, at what rate do we continue to do this?
I think at what rate, you can see what rate we've got up there doing this, going all the way out to 2018. You draw a straight line through that red line, the bold red line at the bottom, do a little linear calculating on it, and put a straight line through there. That thing's got a negative slope to it. Your debt as a percentage of the sales tax collected has been falling since, about 2002?
What was the average sales tax growth during that time frame?
6 to 7%.
What are you projecting for the next couple of years?
We've got these projections up here that shows zero growth.
Right, but you just said that over the last few years, our debt payments have been going down, but that was in a time of extremely good economic times for the city, and that's not what we're headed into.
Well, but what you're looking at, look at the assumptions up here. These are assuming no growth. So we're not building in any cushion for the debt service, and even with no growth, your percentage is dropping because you are paying off debt all the time. Every year as we make payments on this, your debt is going down. As you can see in the graph, that thing is going, the percentage, as a percentage of the sales tax collected, assuming no growth, is still declining.
And that's assuming that we don't take on any additional SRF loans for sewers or other projects that we want to do over the next few years.
That is assuming, that would be assuming that, yes. But we don't have that much on the horizon that we can see at this point. We've got the big sewer lines put in, especially on the east side of town.
Okay. Others that wish to address the council on item number 19. Others, give your name and your address is what we ask. Is anyone else? Okay.
Hey, Mayor,
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, Gene, I have another question for you. Do we know what the impact of this, all four of these projects and this bond will be on our operating budget?
They're all cranked into the operating budget, if that's the question you're asking. I can't give you those numbers off the top of my head, but they have been cranked into the 2010 budget.
Well, can you give us an idea of what that looks like then?
Well, we're still working on it, and it's not in a stage that I'd want to discuss it in any detail because it's like I say, it's still a work in progress and things can change.
Do you have any idea how many new FTEs it will require for this project, these projects?
I'm not aware that these projects in themselves will require new FTE. But like I say, that has all been cranked into the budget, and we will crank it in there for 2010, but I really don't want to talk about a work in progress.
We don't have any FTEs in there for the library?
We've got FTEs in there. Like I said, stuff has been cranked into it, but I don't want to talk about this a work in progress. It just isn't going to tell anybody anything, and then things change.
Well, I guess the concern is that, for the first time that I've been aware of, that the council is going to review the budget this year, the CIP and the operating budget in conjunction, because there's been a long concern that what we do in the CIP budget that always comes first has a big impact on what happens in the operating budget. So this year we're going to go through them together. And I got to believe that there's going to be a significant impact on the operating budget because I think there's going to be some FTEs in this. And my question is that we've also have, in 2010, 4 new police officers that we want to add based on our staffing ratio that we had done, not a ratio, or opposed to ratios, but based on our staffing needs that we determined last year. We also determined that there was a new fire station that was going to be needed in 2011 that will also impact our operating budget to some 10 to 15 firefighters, I believe. And I'd like to know what the impact is going to be on our operating budget before we do this.
Well, like I said, it's a work in progress, and, I really can't open that up to discussion at this point because it would be misleading, or could be misleading, because we don't know what's going to change at this point before we have that budget done. We are taking these things into account as we're preparing the 2010 budget.
Gene, in the current budget we're in, this was already projected into that, and then the 5-year plan laid out the FTEs. So this is already factored into the current budget, correct?
That's what I've been saying. The 09, it's in the 09 plan, and the 2010 plan is being developed with that in mind.
So the FTEs that we're talking about for the library are already factored into those 5-year projections.
Yes. Mr. Mayor. Gene, what was the sales tax growth factored into that budget as well?
The budget what the numbers we're using for the budget are a 2% growth rate in 09 and a 4% growth rate in 2010.
Last year, what Vernon is referring to, what percent growth was factored in?
We had a 6.5% growth factored into that number.
And where are we at as of April 30th?
Now you want 08?
The point is that Vernon's saying is that those FTEs were factored in there, and they were, but they were factored in at a rate of 6.5% sales tax growth. And the reality is we're at 1.3% sales tax growth. In some of these things, you're projecting 0 or very little sales tax growth. So that's where the problem lies. That's the problem exactly. And we're 6 weeks away from getting our budget, and why we are entertaining the idea of passing $18.5 million more in bonds 6 weeks before we get our budget is really concerning. How bad is that budget going to look that we have to do this 6 weeks before we get it?
We have, as we've said already, to discuss the plan for 2010 and 29. We've gone over numerous scenarios with the council on what those are going to look like. You are in a situation, we do not have to get in any knee-jerk reactions. We got a percentage of reserves running up there around 35%, and it's more than adequate to carry us through the next 2 years without any difficulty at all. These two, like for instance, the $38 million that you have for the levies, I'm not aware that there's going to be any new people required for that other than the construction piece of it. Once the levies are up, Don mows them things now, and they're going to be 4 feet higher when he mows them when they get done, something like that. So these things have all been cranked into our work as we're working on the budget now, and you do not have to, like I say, make any knee-jerk reactions, nothing of that sort, because we've been very prudent in how we've been managing the finances for the last 2 or 3 years.
I agree with you on that, but what I'm saying is I'm concerned about the 4 police officer hires next year, along with what other staffing needs we had calculated into it, and the 15 or so firefighters in 2011. That's what I'm concerned about. Because, as you know, our building permits are probably, half of what they were last year, and which was probably 60% of what the year before. And our property taxes come in 2 years in arrear. So in other words, in 2009, we're living off the building permits that came in 2007. In 2008 is when they started to drop, and in 2009 they're really going to drop, and that's going to hit us in 2011.
One thing that you should keep in mind is we put this budget together differently than it used to be put together. It is done as a group of directors, and Chief Barthel is there, and Chief Hill is there. Everybody is around the table when we work on these budgets, both the CIP and the operating budget. And I'm sure that it's part of the rules, I guess, is the way we put it together. Everybody has to buy in that we're doing the right thing and we get the right allocation of resources. And like I say, Chief Barthel and Chief Hill, those guys they're at the table right along with everybody else.
And that's fantastic. Why don't you afford the same courtesy to the City Council and wait 6 weeks before you present this?
This is an '09 project, and we're executing an '09 plan. And there's no reason, again, like I say, there's no reason to make knee-jerk reactions. We can execute our '09 plan. It was a well-thought-out plan. We can execute it, and everything will work out with the reserves and that we have. It'll work out with more than adequate funds to carry us through.
Further questions? Okay, others wish to address council on item number 19.
I'm Sandra Pay, the Vice Chair of the city's Park and Recreation Board, and I'm speaking to you tonight on behalf of all of the members of the Park and Rec Board. I know that some of you are very familiar with Richard Florida's books. Richard Florida is a professor of economics and creativity at the University of Toronto's School of Management. And we live in a very mobile society right now. I was surprised to read that over 40 million Americans move every year. And Professor Florida has made it his career to look at this very mobile society and ask and answer the question, where are these people going and why are they going there? And it turns out that 40 million people are looking for a community where they can live a very fulfilling and happy life. And they have 4 or 5 criteria that they use to judge the communities. And every single one of those clusters of criteria includes beauty in a community and amenities for them and their families. We on the Park Board, of course, are very interested in our project presented tonight, but we also can appreciate all of the projects in this quality of life, in the quality of life bonds. And we urge you with a unanimous voice to approve these bonds so that the people who live here will continue to have that quality of life and that fulfilling, happy life, and they're going to want to stay here. And those who may possibly have an opportunity to come here, or a business may be looking at this community to decide if they want to move here, will see that Sioux Falls does indeed have the beauty and the amenities to make this a place where they and their employees might have a happy and fulfilling life. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions? Others?
Steve Metley, Vice President of Business Development for First Bank and Trust here in Sioux Falls and member of your zoological board. 4 years ago, the zoo was in utter turmoil. The operations of the zoo and the maintenance of our zoo was being criticized roundly by the public and by the media and by members of the council. And the Zoological Society knew they had a decision to make about improving the zoo and changing its leadership. And to that end, we did hire a new CEO, Elizabeth Whaley, who spoke to you earlier tonight, who's done a marvelous job with the zoo. We've renewed our partnership with the city, primarily through the City Parks and Recreation Department. And in 2007, we bought a master plan developed by the Zoological Society and a firm that is nationally known for zoo improvement plans and zoo operational plans. And that plan was adopted by the council, and we're very happy about that. The proposed projects that are in this fund are part of that master plan and part of bringing the zoo back and making it something the community can be proud of well into the 21st century. I think it was probably 50 years ago that the last time we did major improvements to the zoo, and we're embarking on a path that over the next 5 to 10 years will make the zoo a place the community can be very proud of, and will make it something we'll be proud of 50 years from now when we look back on the zoo. So I urge you to support this fund. And I also have to address one more thing, only because I watched Mike up here trying to deal with your questions on that railroad bridge. And since I was the first one involved in the discussions on that railroad bridge sits in the floodway, which means it sits down below the 100-year floodplain, which means if there's a flood of any serious consequence, 50-year flood, there's a great possibility the water is going to back up behind it, and if you throw in an ice flow like they had in Fargo this year, or some trees that get caught up in our river, our wild river here in Sioux Falls, you're most likely going to flood a great deal of what's back behind that bridge, including parts of downtown and particularly the east side of the river. And we knew that, and one of the reasons that the plan from the start called for taking that bridge out was because we knew that, and we knew that, and FEMA made it very clear to us that it was a major impediment in the river. So I think we have not only a responsibility to live up to our promise that was made to Mr. Schurslick on his Sharapa project and the improvements that need to be done along the riverfront, but we have a responsibility, I think, as a city government to remove that bridge and protect the properties that are back upstream from it, from what could be very serious flooding in the future.
Go ahead. Steve, do you know what level of flood protection we have with that bridge there?
With that bridge there, it's much less than 100 year.
But we don't know what it is.
And again, if it would take a combination, and it's happened in this city before, of ice flows and log jams collecting along with that bridge to back up the water, but it would certainly overflow the river on the east bank and on portions of the west bank where the river wall has some openings.
What plan were you referring to that said that had the bridge being removed?
Early on, it was in the initial plan that we did on the greenway down in that area. So I don't know what year that was.
Prior to 2004?
No, it was 2004. When we began to do the specific planning for that portion of the riverfront.
Well, I'm happy to show you the 2004 plan, and it clearly is converting a railroad bridge to a pedestrian bridge, and you're welcome to take my copy if you want it.
It isn't doing what?
It's converting a railroad bridge to a pedestrian bridge.
I know it, and that's why we called for that, was not only to deal with you're saying leave the railroad bridge and make it into a pedestrian bridge?
Right. I mean, that's what the plan says.
That wasn't our intent. It was always the intent to take it out. We have to, because it's a danger sitting in the floodway there.
That's what the plan says, and I'm happy to take a look at it if you like. I have a question for Mark Cotter, if he's still here.
Can I ask one question of Steve?
Steve?
Being on the zoo board and everything, can you say that the city has been a strong partner to the zoo?
Absolutely. The city and our relationship with the city, particularly working through the park department, and the park board, has just been excellent.
Thank you.
Here's Mark.
Mark, in our conversations with the Corps, with all the levee work that we've been doing throughout the whole river area, how has this pedestrian bridge come into the conversation?
Well, it comes into the conversation with the proposed improvements that are planned in this area as it relates to improvements for the downtown greenway. So they are essentially two separate issues.
I guess I'm trying to quantify the level of risk we have with that railroad bridge, converting it to a pedestrian bridge. And I know the high water mark, and we've had these conversations in the past, but I've not known that this railroad bridge was such an impediment to flooding. I hadn't heard that before, and I'm trying to put my hands around that.
Yeah. Excuse me.
I mean, I know we need to do it so that we can impede the river flow to do the river greenway, but where has this come up with flood control?
Well, you got two separate issues. You've got the Skunk Creek flows that are essentially, there's an improvement that is planned from 229 going north to Skunk Creek and then back on Skunk Creek. That's one project as it relates to the core. And then this area, which has been identified, essentially one of the first meetings I became involved in with the River Greenway project, it was stated that this was an impediment. The lowest chord is what they talk about, which is the depth of that structure will become an impediment to that river flow. And so your first opportunity is, all right, now its intended use is beyond. If it is in the floodway, because we do have two items we talk about. Floodway is the water that's traveling during high peak rain events. You've got that to deal with, and you've also got floodplains. So we've got both of those agencies that, working with the hydraulics people, look at what can be done so we don't impact people upstream. And as Steve stated, it's been, from one of the first meetings I became involved in, it's been an impediment and it's been planned to be removed.
Let me ask a simple question that might be harder for you to answer, but in order to get, we're doing all this floodplain work in order to get certified.
Mm-hmm.
Absent of this bridge being removed, can we get certified?
For the Skunk Creek River flows that we're doing with the
100-year flood plan.
Yes, for that project.
We can get certified
Yep.
for 100 years without removing that railroad bridge.
For that project on the core, which is the Skunk Creek down to I-29. Now, for any improvements that are done into the River Greenway, that becomes a second project. And as Mike had stated, those improvements can't go forward because of what's, you've got a system of credits and offsets that you use as you are planning a River Greenway improvement. And this is your one of the biggest credits that you can take advantage of so you can enhance that whole area from a impediment standpoint.
So if we remove the bridge, we can encroach the river in other areas.
You can encroach the river in this area, that's correct. Okay.
Others that wish to address council?
I had a question for Mark.
Okay, Mark.
Yeah. We're talking about a railroad bridge going across the Big Sioux River downtown,
Mhm.
and FEMA has become involved in this. Has FEMA become involved in the parking ramp over the Big Sioux River downtown? Because that seems like a bigger impediment than this railroad bridge we're talking about.
It is. As you, as a hydraulic engineer, as you route river water through a corridor, you document what those impediments are. And so you have a, whether it is the 8th Street crossing, whether it's the 6th Street crossing, whether it's the parking ramp, whether it's this railroad bridge, you include all those factors when you're routing the water.
I'm not an expert hydrologist, obviously, but one would kind of intuitively think that that railroad bridge is probably a less impediment than many of the other bridges we have, including the parking ramp.
Well, I think one of the keys is that the lowest chord, and that's what we talk about, is what is the elevation of the lowest part of that bridge. And then also as you look at that structure, the piers are extremely wide, and so the combination of the lowest chord and the size of those piers, removing that will provide a good opportunity to route more, route that water and then also encroach. Okay?
Okay. Others that wish to address the council on item number 19?
I'm Tom Houle, speaking for the Siouxland Library's Board of Trustees. A number of the trustees are here tonight. Several couldn't make it, but they are here along with a number members of the public who also are here to speak for us. But you've already heard some of the demographic reasons for the new library on the west side that we're asking for, and it's not my intent to talk about that so much because you have heard that or will hear it. What I do want to talk about a little bit is the process that we went through to get us to this point. It's been a rather long and arduous process to find a way to adequately serve the west side. As Sally mentioned earlier, and Mike had indicated, this goes back to 1997, I think it was, And when I came on the library board, I think around 2000, 2002, somewhere in there, we were already talking about the west side and the need for the west side. Cayley Branch had been built not too long before that, and originally that was expected to serve the west side, and it did for a number of years. But if you recall, the growth on the west side became phenomenal in the 1990s and the early 2000s. At the same time that growth was occurring, changes in technology, changes in library services became abundantly clear to us. The growth of computers, DVDs, all these electronic things were becoming demanded of us to serve the patrons. We also found a bottleneck in the Cayley Branch. Cayley could not be expanded very well, and as the west side people began to use Cayley extensively, as well as the people in that south central core, it reached its maximum use, and it's been overused and is running, I have to give the staff their credit for dealing with an unusually large amount of requests. So, solving the issue for the west side was not an easy process, because as we looked at the idea of simply coming to you and saying, could we build a new library on the west side, it was obvious that we also had a problem in how are we going to service that. If you recall, we have a hub and spoke system in this community, with the main library downtown serving as the central hub, the nerve center for the entire system. If we built the West Side Library a few years ago, we could not have adequately served that. Consequently, we had to come back to you and say, we need to do something with the downtown library, which you approved, which is now being completed in another year, will be fully operational. That's going to give us a capacity to serve the city for a long time. And I really need to appreciate and thank you for what you did in making that available. I hope all of you will get a chance to get down there and see that library while it's being finished up now and soon will be open. Well, anyway, the issue of the population growth that occurred on the west side, the usage, the changing needs, all combined to tell us that we had to do something. And as we finish the West Side Library, or the downtown library, we now can complete the West Side and be able to serve it as we need to and provide those services. As you know, or may not know, we currently have 3 libraries in the city plus the downtown library. We have 8 libraries in the county, and we have a bookmobile service that we're providing throughout this area. Those services require a fair amount of work, a fair amount of service, and we have to have that nerve center downtown to do that well. Finally, I would say that the most exciting component of this thing is yet to come, to me anyway, because if this is approved, if this bond issue is approved, what will happen is that the architects will come in and they will set up a shop on the west side, and they will say to you, to the residents of the west side, come on in and tell us what you would like in a library. Tell us how we can do this. Tell us how we can make this a little more user-friendly for you. It's called a charrette. We did it with the Oakview Library. We did it downtown. And it's a truly grassroots approach to building a building that people in the area will love and take care of and be a part of the community. We really look forward to that process. So I thank you for your support. Hopefully you will support the bond issue as we can use the new library in the west side. Thank you.
Thanks, Tom. Questions? Others that wish to address the council on item number 14? Name and address, please.
Back to the zoo. I'm Carol Oakland, past Director of Athletic Development at Augustana College, Vice Chair of the Zoological Society of Directors, and Chair of the Zoo's Development Committee. As a board member of the zoo and also as a citizen of our fine city, I think this is a very good deal for the city. There is significant private funding from a variety of places that will more than match the amount of money that the city is investing in the zoo. We have already assembled more than $1 million in donor funding, and those donors need to see their money put to work. In addition, we have the unique opportunity, because we have been chosen by the Chamber of Appeals campaign, fundraising campaign, to begin in January of 2010. We intend to raise both private donor money as well as the designated allotted $2.3 million from the Chamber business community. This was decided a couple of years ago, so we have been in the planning process since then. As a professional fundraiser and a person who has worked in the leadership of several recent successful capital campaigns, I know what it takes to put together a capital campaign. I can assure you that the strategy and the thinking has been done by the board members and by the staff at the zoo, and we are pulling from a number of significant and assorted wells to raise the dollars that we need. We expect the support for these two projects to come from outside of Sioux Falls as well. As Elizabeth mentioned, we are working with large foundations. They also like to see match money and community support. They like the CIP funds that are already approved as the match for further funding that can bring money to Sioux Falls. Funders and donors need to see progress. We have considerable private funding assembled, more under cultivation. Requests are in front of foundations, and we want to have these donors see their investment put into progress under the timeline we have given them. Thank you.
Thank you, Carol. Questions? Others who wish to address the council on item number 50?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm Sabrina Meyer-Henry. I'm the immediate past chair of the Zoological Society, and I currently serve on the executive committee, and I'm a business owner here in town. Over the past 3 years, the zoo has made great progress in building admissions, memberships, and its organizational health. Not only is the zoo stable, it's strong and it's growing. In just 2 years, the zoo has built back its attendance with an increase of 60%, from 137,000 to 220,000 visitors in 2007. We're very proud of the city zoo. In this time, the zoo and the workers have worked so hard attacking a great deal of long-deferred maintenance. Much of it out of its operating budget. They've accomplished replacing fences, cleaning and fixing the facilities, making renovations, as it could make the zoo more functional and attractive at the same time. We now need to focus on some construction. Projects that will significantly improve both animal care and the visitor experience for the residents of Sioux Falls and the surrounding area. As we all know, this is just a fabulous and wonderful visitor attraction for our area, and it's so important to the city. These are needed projects, well thought out and well planned, necessary. We need to continue the momentum that we have worked so hard to achieve with our visitors, our donors, our members, and our investors, our partnership with the city, to keep improving and building our zoo. I ask that you vote to keep our zoo moving forward. Thank you so much for your consideration.
Questions. Others that wish to address the council, item number 19.
Good evening. It's very nice to be on this side of the podium and not on yours. So, Mayor and council members, thank you so much. My name is Dina Barth, and I live at 4605 Deerfield Circle. Now we got that protocol out of the way. Before I give you some remarks I have on this quality of life bond, I would like to take a moment and thank Mike Cotter and all our public works employees. It is their service to not only the city but our school district is invaluable, and without them we could not do what we do on a daily basis for the lives of not only our children but the staff that we employ. So Mike, and to you and all your people, thank you so much. But really, I'm not here as a school board representative. I'm here in my soon-to-be role as citizen. The best means to benefit the community is to place within its reach the ladders upon which inspiring can rise: free libraries, parks, and means of recreation. I wish I would have said that, but it was Andrew Carnegie, and he built these types of structures. What he said not a few years ago, many years ago, still apply. As I was looking for a reason to come to talk to you today, because I know $17.5 million in bonds is not an easy thing to pass, especially as I see Member Costello struggle with debt and what do we do. And having sat in your seat, I know that's not an easy thing to do. But there are a few pieces of information I'd like to bring you about the need for public libraries and how it affects our youngest citizens. There was a national report done by two doctors, one from Temple University, Dr. Galen, and one from the University of Pennsylvania, Dr. Newman. And they articulated clearly through not only an evaluation piece, but a research piece, that public libraries, in their words, are in the most remarkable part and space to expose children to the greatest quantities of print and meaningful language experiences and opportunities. And we all know that increases their ability to read. Not only does that increase their ability to read, but it increases our ability to give you the workers of the future. It's hard to say that summer reading programs and preschool presentations at our libraries would make a difference, but we know that research says it does. People who participate in these types of opportunities spend more time with books, have greater success, and move positively towards reading achievement. You know, families really want to know how to do the right thing. And our libraries and the professional staff that you hire for us and the citizens of Sioux Falls are not only that resource, but that coach. And they help us make our citizens, and our youngest ones at that, comparable to any workers we can find. We currently have 5,600 students in the elementary schools west of I-29. And we're building our last two elementary schools in that area. We know that this bond is about the quality of life, the quality of workers, but it is also about the quality of Sioux Falls. Andrew Carnegie ended that quote with, "We have to calculate the best we can do for the longest and lasting good." It's a hard decision, but I would hope that you give serious consideration to approving the quality of life bond. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for your service on the school board. We really appreciate
Mr. Mayor,
your service, too.
I have a quick question here. Dean, as you were talking, my mind began to think here of, libraries, because at the University of Sioux Falls, we obviously have a library that's open to the public, so does Augustana. But then I was also thinking that the schools have libraries across the city. Has there ever been any thought of maybe opening those up more to opening them up to the public?
Councilman Staggers, in the 3 years that I have been on the school board, that has never been a conversation, but one I think that might benefit us all having. But there's a difference between opening up our school libraries and creating a library where the public is welcome. It does more than just embrace school-age children or elementary-age children or middle school. It embraces the community, and it sends a clear message, I believe, to anybody who walks through those doors that reading is important, and it's a lifelong activity. I'm not sure that my elementary library would send that clear message. I'm not quite sure, even though I love the libraries at USF and Augie, it sends the same message. But when I walk into a public library, the scope of reading and that lifelong love of reading is evident.
I guess if I can just respond, obviously adults are not going to be very eager to go to an elementary school library, but I'm thinking of a lot of young people who live on the west side. They would like to maybe take their young kids to, the elementary school library on Saturdays or whatever. Once again, what you said tonight just caused me to think about, possibilities like that in the future.
I love the fact that we explore all possibilities, and we have such a wonderful collaboration between the city and the school board. But I think right now what we're looking at is that freestanding piece that would make a difference not only to the children that I serve, but the community that we all serve.
Dina, as the husband of a high school English teacher at Washington High School, I can answer that a little bit. My wife often complains about, when she's doing research papers, having to schedule time in the high school libraries to get her students in there, and that becoming very difficult because of the high usage in the high school libraries. So under today's current standards for the high school libraries, I don't know that it would hold the traffic.
I believe that's correct. The other thing is that we, like you, struggle to keep our collections current and really provide what we need to provide to our students, and then to increase the amount of
usage, it would be a long conversation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I appreciate it. Others, name and address, please.
Good evening. I'm Shelley Grindy. Address is 2225 South Stanford Avenue. I am here to speak to you on behalf of the support of the library on the west side of Sioux Falls. Here as a concerned citizen and parent of 2 young children who live on the west side, of course, with me, and my husband. We access the library continuously at our house. Our son attends a West Side Elementary School, and he does access that library. He also accesses the bookmobile that comes by the Kids Inc. Program after school. And we have a daughter who attends daycare and who attends the preschool programming put on by the Sioux Falls Public Library. The services that are available for my children and other children on the west side of Sioux Falls are very important to us and to other citizens. We feel that literacy at an early age is very important and will help them grow to be strong citizens of the city of Sioux Falls. Also, as you've heard tonight, there is a large number of families that live on the west side of Sioux Falls, and accessing a free structured library would be the easiest thing for people to access. In response to Mr. Sager's question about accessing a Saturday library at a school district, I don't think that would be too appropriate for a preschool child. The resources there are not consistent with what would be available for a 2, 3, or 4-year-old. They're more geared toward the elementary age. So I don't think that would be appropriate at this time. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Others that wish to address the council on item number 19?
My name is Larry Leverins. I live at 5809 West 27th Street. I happen to be the 2009 president of the Board of Directors of South Dakota Junior Football. I've coached in South Dakota Junior Football for 25 years. I've been a member of their board for the last 15. I'm here, obviously, to express our concern over this issue and request the support of the council in voting this bond issue. Just a little bit about South Dakota Junior Football. We're an instructional participation youth tackle football league. The object of South Dakota Junior Football is to promote, manage, and conduct an organized youth football program for pre-high school youth in and around Sioux Falls, South Dakota. Teach the basics of the game of football, sportsmanship, teamwork, in a positive, encouraging environment that will assist all participants in improving their self-worth and confidence. Our program consists of boys and girls, grades 3 through 8. We serve the Sioux Falls area and the surrounding communities, approximately a 30 to 35-mile radius of Sioux Falls. There's no child that's turned away from participating in our program due to financial issues. A few facts: in 2008, there was 2,023 players that participated in South Dakota Junior Football. They made up 93 teams. In 2008, we played 397 games on the 4 fields at Riverdale Park. That's 94 games per field. In 2008, we polled our attendance. We averaged a spectator attendance of about 7,400 people weekly down at Riverdale Park that were there to watch the kids play. If you look at the South Dakota High School Activities Association in 11-man football, you have AA, Class A, Class B. In South Dakota High School Activities Association, between those 3 classes, there's 66 teams that participate. We have 93 teams in South Dakota Junior Football. If you look at those same 3 classes across the state of South Dakota, they play 281 games in the course of a season. South Dakota Junior Football played 397 games last season. We've talked with numerous representatives, including representative from Rydell Sports that we buy a lot of our equipment from, helmets and shoulder pads in particular. He's told us that we're one of the largest youth football organizations in the country. There's other towns more highly populated than us, but they have multiple groups that provide youth football. As far as one group and one community, we're one of the largest in the country. We've had over the years approximately 17 additional communities that have expressed an interest in joining our program. Because of field limitations, we've had to turn these communities down. If you looked at 17 communities and figured we had 2 or 3 teams in each one of these communities come into our program, that would calculate out to about 34 to 51 more teams. If you average 22 players per team, That's somewhere between 750 and 1,125 youth that we're turning away and not giving the opportunity to play youth football. Sioux Falls Development Foundation expects the city to double in size in the next 30 years. It's reasonable to assume South Dakota junior football would also double in size in that same time frame. We currently play 2 games per week, or per evening, on Monday nights, Tuesday nights, Thursday nights. On Saturdays, we start at 9, we're out of there at 6:30, playing 22 games on Saturdays alone. An increase in players will result, an increase in players right now to where we're at because we're maxed out on the fields. Increase the number of players now from the communities that we're currently serving is going to force us to go to Sunday evening games. We stay away from Wednesdays because that's a church night in the fall. We stay away from Fridays because it's high school football. Historically, we've stayed away from Sundays because of church and family commitments. Any significant moisture to the fields at Riverdale Park causes problems with us getting our games in. That also leads to excessive hazards for the players, such as exposed sprinkler heads, hard surfaces. Once the field's dry, they become hard, especially late in the fall, all increasing the risk factor of the students. In talking to Mark Miley, the director and supervisor of Sioux Falls Public Schools, regarding Howard Wood Field, I asked Mark, prior to putting in field turf at Howard Wood Field, how many events were played on that surface? Prior to field turf going in, Howard Wood Field had 27 to 30 events played on it annually. We have 94. As far as our league operation goes, our league is managed and operated by an all-volunteer board of directors. Each board member serves on one or more committees, which assumes the responsibilities of carrying out our league tasks. South Dakota Junior Football owns approximately 2,300 sets of equipment and uniforms to fit all of our participants. We receive no subsidies from any government entities. We are a 501c3 IRS-designated corporation and a South Dakota nonprofit corporation in good standing. South Dakota Junior Football was established in 1969, founded by local parents and businessmen, including Dick Flynn, Cliff Van Hove, Frank Becker, Ron Lamberty, just to name a few. A couple of them are in attendance here this evening. We received equipment in 1969 from Dakota Sports on credit. Took us a couple of years to get that debt paid, but we were able to do that and continue a business relationship with them today. Originally, games were played at Tut Hill Park and a field at Drake Springs, which I believe now is a skating rink over there, the skateboard park. Eventually, we moved to Newser-Salem Field by Colville Lake. At that point in time, we provided goalposts and an old garage that housed all of our equipment. In time, around the late 80s, we moved and played. One year we played games at Nelson Field in the outfield because we had grown so fast and Riverdale Park wasn't ready. Once we moved to Riverdale Park, South Dakota Junior Football was responsible for providing goalposts, storage building, put lights on 3 fields. In 2000, the storage building was added to, which included public restrooms. 2002, we put lights on the 4th and final field. 2002, we also put in electronic scoreboards. 2007, we made the second addition to a storage building. We've also paid for the light bill at Riverdale Park and the paint that goes on the fields for all the markings. As far as our new facility goes that we're talking about here this evening, South Dakota Junior Football is committed to 5 specific projects related to that whole total project. We committed to providing the goalposts for 8 fields, committed to the scoreboards for 8 fields, the lights for 8 fields, storage building to house our equipment and our game day activities, and bleachers for those 8 fields. Those 5 projects make up the $1.4 million that's in your numbers. We applied and will be applying again to Chamber of Commerce Community Appeals Drive this year. We've been in contact with the National Community Development Services, which has been used for Forward Sioux Falls, Great Bear Recreation, Washington Pavilion projects in town. We've talked with those people about a fundraising campaign. In closing, the project for the new youth football complex is a kickoff of economic development to the Benson Road and Westport intersection. This project, as you know from the maps that you've seen earlier, is to the northeast portion of that intersection. You have 3 other sections of that intersection for economic development that is sure to follow. The remaining 135 acres of the land that Sanford is proposed to donating would be sold off or developed, and increased property taxes as well as sales tax dollars would come into the city and the state. On behalf of South Dakota Junior Football, I'd like to thank Sanford Health for their support of our program, for their generous gift of this land donation to the city to allow us to proceed on with the future of South Dakota Junior Football and the youth in the communities that we serve. I'd also like to thank, on behalf of South Dakota Junior Football, Darn Carney, his staff at the Park and Recreation Department, for their cooperativeness and understanding and working with our program over the 40 years that we've been in existence. Change gears just quickly. Tim Duncan is a basketball player, plays professional basketball for the San Antonio Spurs. Tim Duncan grew up in St. Croix, Virgin Islands. He went on to play basketball at Wake Forest. He was the NCAA Player of the Year. He was a first-round draft pick by the San Antonio Spurs. He was the only rookie selected in the 1998 All-Star Game. He was voted NBA Rookie of the Year. He had an NBA championship in his second season. He's been a member of 3 USA basketball teams that competed in the Olympics. He was a sure NBA Hall of Famer. When Tim Duncan left St. Croix, the Virgin Islands, his mother said to him something that I think we're using as junior football. I know we're using as junior football, something that I believe we've been used by the city over the years. What his mother said to him when he left to go on to college was good, better, best. Never let it rest until your good is better and your better is best. Please support this issue and support South Dakota Junior Football. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Yes, Larry, when discussion began about Sanford giving land to the city for the football fields, one suggestion I made was instead of giving the land to the city, just give it to the Junior Football League. And if the Junior Football League would have this land, they wouldn't have all the politics that go with, the city owning it. Well, since Sanford has not given the land officially to the city yet, what do you think about Sanford giving the land to the Junior Football League, and you'd be in charge of the field, and you could do whatever you wanted to, and wouldn't have to worry about all the politics?
As I stated, we are an all-volunteer board. We do not employ any of us board members are employed. None of us draw a salary out of this program. The funds that we take in through registration fees and sponsorships, they go into outfitting the kids that play, keeping them safe. Us taking on $1.4 million to improve this and make this deal work and to do the improvements we've done in the past is one thing. For us to take on a multi-million-dollar task of developing land, developing a youth football complex, maintaining it on an annual basis, the cost to the players would just go through the roof. The kids in the community would not be able to afford to even play because that's our only funding source. Well, not our only funding source. Obviously, we have sponsorships and corporate things and so on. But it comes down to keeping the program affordable for the kids, and that's what we're about. We're about the kids. We're not about developing land and developing football complexes. This is a portion of it. We have a great partnership with Sanford and the city, and that's kind of the direction that we've gone. I just really have a hard time seeing us tapping into the youth that we serve to try to afford to do a whole complex.
What you're saying, it's more difficult. That's right. It's easier to have the city do this. But I guess I'm just so confident that we have so many businesses and people in Sioux Falls that support this that, they would be willing to support you financially. And to me, that's the ideal way to go. Because, once again, it's your own facility. You don't have to worry about politics.
Larry, how much money did you guys privately raise for the current youth football facility? Didn't you do some of the final lighting?
Well, at Riverdale now?
At Riverdale.
Well, it's been done in segments. For example, in 2007, when we put the building addition on, that was $70,000. Back in 2002, when we did the scoreboards and the lights on Field D, the last one field, that total combination of that project was about $50,000. I don't recall what it was, when we first moved over there to light the 3 fields. I know at one point in time, my earlier years way back, when we put lights on Sherman Park, when I was on the men's slow pitch board, we were looking at $100,000 a field. I don't have current estimates on all of that.
Well, I think what some of us are struggling with is that $1 million and $1.4 million is a lot of money to raise.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, how confident are you that you're going to be able to do that, and what's the, what happens if you don't?
This project has come before this committee here lately. Our conversations on this project go back to when Mike Cooper was on the park board. So this isn't a brand-new project to us. This is something that we knew was coming down the road, and we have not gone out and aggressively fundraised, because what would we aggressively fundraise for? A project that hasn't been approved? And how are we going to get people to hop on board for that? So we kind of the chicken and the egg type thing, what comes first? We have accumulated some funds. We've been prudent in our spending. Do we have the 1.4 in the bank today? No, we don't. As a board, are we confident that we can get this done? Yes, we are. We wouldn't have committed to it to the Parks Department in the first place. If that answers it, but...
Okay, thank you. Others that wish to address the council on item number 19?
Good evening, Orland Cheddar, Sanford Health. A very important topic, but it certainly looks like it's going to be a late evening. I'm going to abandon my notes and attempt to make 2 points. First of all, we're committed to youth programs in the community. We think there's evidence of that by the fact that we're willing to commit to donating a 50-acre parcel of land for the program that you just heard eloquently described. And we enthusiastically support the other components of this bond issue. The second point that I'd like to make is that we are actively recruiting physicians, staff, researchers, people of all walks of life to come to our health system and to do their work here in Sioux Falls in this community. I talked with our recruiters earlier today about what types of questions are you asked when people consider the possibility of coming here. The first is, of course, they're interested in the technology and what type of services they can work in and provide within the health system. But the very next question they ask is about the community. They ask about our schools. They ask about our parks. They ask about recreation. They ask about libraries. They're interested in what type of higher education is available, what kind of quality of life is available to them to come to this community and commit to work here. Those are every bit as important to most families who consider moving here for these types of research and physicians and other types of jobs that we have within Sanford Health, as are the actual technical jobs. I am fortunate to have a son and a beautiful new daughter-in-law who are both in medical school. They are being recruited literally around the world for their graduation from medical school some 2 years down the road. These students have an opportunity today to go anywhere that they want to go. And if we want the best and the brightest to come here to live in our community and to take care of us and provide the type of services and the care that we need, we have to provide them a community in which they want to live. Again, in the interest of time, I'm going to close and urge you to consider supporting these bond issues tonight. This is a very important matter for our community. It's important not only for our youth, which you've heard already from several people, but it's also important to the adults and how we function in terms of being able to provide the type of health care that's available.
Thank you. Others on item 19?
Jason Drake. I'm the current president of Sioux Falls Youth Hockey. As many of you council members probably know, our facilities aren't the top notch in the state of South Dakota. So what we've been looking to do is build a facility that we can call home and bring some with pride to Sioux Falls. Sanford has generously donated land to Sioux Falls Youth Hockey to commence in building a facility to that nature. Obviously, the infrastructure out to the Benson and Westport is something that we need to see happen sooner than later. So all of our members within Sioux Falls Youth Hockey support this decision unanimously to go forward with a private facility for not just youth hockey, but for the community and all ice sports possible as well. So,
Thanks, Jason. Go ahead.
Yes, Jason, in regard to the hockey facility, once again, Sanford is giving the Youth Hockey Association that land. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And then the next question is, I've heard so many different things. Are you going to be raising that money yourself? I think is it $5 million to build a facility?
To the last figure we actually had was close to $12 million for the 3 to 4 sheet facility.
Oh,
So
okay. And are you going to raise that yourself?
it's our goal to privately fund this facility.
Okay. I wish you all the best, too.
Others that wish to address the council on item number 19?
Thank you. I'm Larry Rayfeld, representing the Downtown Sioux Falls Board of Directors. A couple of very quick points. I appreciate the fact that the River Greenway development is part of the quality of life bond issue, because it truly is a quality of life, I think, is attested by anybody who was downtown at Falls Park 10, 15 years ago and is down there now understands that the investment that's been made has affected positively thousands and thousands of our citizens as well as our visitors. I think it's imperative, and Downtown Sioux Falls believes it's imperative that we continue that process of developing the River Greenway. I think equally appropriate that the River Greenway monies could be in an economic development bond, if you will. The development and the cleaning up of downtown, the development of the Riverway is a catalyst for a lot of private money coming into downtown that will come into downtown. And I think that's also proven in the past. In the years between 97 and 2007, the assessed value of downtown doubled. That raise, obviously increases the tax base. Additional investment in the downtown and the River Greenway certainly is going to provide that as well. So I urge you to support this project. I think it is definitely something that's going to benefit the city for many years to come. Thank you.
Thanks, Larry. Questions? Others that wish to address the council on item 19?
And the parade continues. I'm Mike Crane. I'm here this evening in my capacity as Vice Chair of the Downtown Development Committee. The Development Committee was established 3 years ago by the Board of Directors of Downtown Sioux Falls. The committee's objective is to provide coordination between developers and city personnel as new projects are brought forward, planned, and constructed. The more than 30 members of the Development Committee who participate regularly do so because they recognize the importance of a vital downtown to Sioux Falls and to our continued growth and development. The development of the River Greenway has been identified in the Downtown Sioux Falls 2008 Strategic Plan as one of our top priorities. A successful, well-planned River Greenway system will encourage additional investment in the downtown area, while at the same time embracing one of our city's greatest potential assets, the Big Sioux River. You've heard about several projects tonight that will benefit from this, but I would just like to touch on 3 again very quickly. Sharapa Place was built facing the river. The building designers integrated the Greenway into the building design. Raven Industries has decided to move forward with river improvements based on the River Greenway plan that was adopted in 2004 and has since been upgraded. And finally, the plans that we're seeing in a very preliminary fashion for the Schoeneman site show a strong orientation to the riverfront. I think it's critical as you look at this project that this first phase of the Greenway development plan be well done. Successful completion of this phase not only paves the way for future economic development and growth in the downtown area, but it also sets the stage for the continued revitalization of the river throughout the entire community. I would urge you to support this bond issue. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Mike. Others that wish to address the council on item number 19?
Good evening. My name is Deanne Eccles, and I own Great Outdoor Store downtown, and I'm here representing the small businesses of downtown. When I brought my small business to downtown about 15 years ago, one of the things that attracted me to the downtown area was the charm of the area and the possibility of what our downtown could become in the future. And it certainly has become that. In those last 15 years, we've seen fantastic improvements to our downtown, and that has impacted my business as well as several of the other small businesses downtown, most of which are locally owned people just like me with that open their door every day and greet their customers. I think the importance of this project to small business is that anything that we do to improve the downtown area, whether it be to our streets, which we're doing now, to the River Greenway, that just brings more people downtown, and the more people we bring, the more attractive it becomes to entrepreneurs such as myself to come downtown, make it a unique area where people can shop, live, work, play, and walk along our beautiful river. It's really an asset that our downtown has that you really don't find in very many cities around our country. And I just want to urge you to pass this measure so that we continue to see the revitalization of our downtown and bring it to what it can be. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Others that wish to address the council?
Good evening, folks. I'm Jeff Scherschlicht with Sharapa Place. I think a number of you were here about 4 or 5 years ago, and I thought we already vetted this process. So I'm a little surprised that we're going through this. I mean, I'm excited for the community of all of the quality of life issues here, but basically, folks, I want to just go back to the riverfront development. And this wasn't Sharapa's plan in any way, shape, or form. This was the community's plan. All we did was say, hey, we're local folks. I'm not a typical developer. My partners weren't typical developers. We just said we're going to do what's right for the community. Fortunately, after listening to tonight's discussion to a certain degree, I'm glad I had some legal help. I'm naive enough that I thought I could do it with a handshake, like the way business used to be done, the way that I still would do it today. Because I did everything that I said we would do with Sharapa and more. And I could prove every penny of that. And ultimately, folks, we have a contract. We have a contract that I went through with this entire group that was ultimately agreed with, the city attorneys and all of the stuff. And it's really a simple document. And Pat, I do appreciate your, looking at it from the perspective of the community and the dollars. And I said to all of you that I said, folks, if this imperiled at all the debt structure of Sioux Falls, of what we're talking about here, I would tell you that my partners and myself would back off, because there's a lot more important things. But this is quality of life. This is things that I saw that were not in any peril from a community standpoint, but was a deal, was a written contract that is signed. So I don't even get this process, to be honest, from this project specifically. Yeah, has it changed a little bit from exactly the drawing in 2004? It developed even as we were talking about it. If I bring in what Sharapa looked like when we were first going to do it, you would see that has developed tremendously from what our original vision was. However, the essence is the same. To do the riverfront development project that is really put forth by the city. It wasn't put forth by Sharapa in any shape or form. Ultimately, here is a picture in 1957 of what happened to the flooding in downtown Sioux Falls that we could face. I understand, again, I think the idea that do we have to take this bridge out of there? Only if we're going to realize or live by the ultimate vision that was created by the community and the citizens of the riverfront walkway or riverfront development. My understanding is the vision is a San Antonio type concept. That this isn't going to go just in front of Sharapa Place or between 8th and 6th Street, but someday it's going to go all the way from the Falls Park all the way back to Cliff Avenue. And folks, I look at what we're doing here today as kind of the model home. This is the big plan. You got to give people the vision. You know, I've dealt with paper for years, and a lot of people just don't get it. They got to see it and they got to feel it. And that's why it's important to do it right. Do it per the contract. And the contract is fairly broad, but it basically says you're going to do it per the master plan. And the master plan has evolved because of flood issues, because of issues of elevation and the ability to embrace the kind of the river edge or the idea that you're trying to create. And so ultimately, we're just trying to do it right for the community long term. And so I just get back that I think there's a whole bunch of quality of life issues here. It's not easy to spend money. I look at this whole bond issue as a little bit our own local stimulus plan. Because, you know, people say, go build some more stuff at Sharapa. We would love to do that on behalf of the community. First of all, we're not going to just go out and develop what's right for us. We're going to do what's right for the community. But we need people. We need tenants. We need people that want to pay for things. Ultimately, what you're creating here is a master plan that is going to be a big-time vision for this community to bring in the businesses that they were talking about, to do the things that Sanford wants to do, to bring in the quality people. And ultimately, when it comes down to it, it's very simple. We have a written agreement. And I would expect that you would live by that. And I wouldn't think anything less of this group. I appreciate your service. I really hope that we can move forward with this because it is on behalf of the community. It certainly isn't on behalf of Sharapa Place.
Thanks, Jeff.
Thank you.
Just a minute, Jeff. Go ahead.
Yeah, Jeff, I think all of us on the city council want to follow the contract that we have with you.
Thank you.
The contract, however, doesn't say how much all this is going to cost. And so that's a problem that we have. You know, it wasn't very long ago that the Greenway improvements were going to cost us $2.5 million. Now it's doubled, and I think that some of us are concerned that maybe we're getting a little bit extravagant spending in here. So it's not that we don't want to follow the contract. I mean, we really do, but, you know, we're not going to spend unlimited amounts of money. No, we have to be reasonable, and so that's what we're trying to decide here, really.
I appreciate that because the idea that to live by the contract is important. Yes. I think at the same time, just like we've done with Sharapa, though, is you got to think long-term versus short-term. And I don't profess to understand all those numbers or what it's going to take, but it does take money to do things right. And this isn't a short-term project. I hope that you also see as part of the Sharapa project, we're redoing the old depot at this point. And again, we're doing it right because we care. So it isn't always about the money, and I think you're very smart that way to look at what we're doing here. But again, I trust your people. They care. They also understand that they're dealing with budgets. They've come to these dollar conclusions because it's what it's going to take to do it right. I believe the study of the whole riverfront improvement is in there. There's a lot of things because this is the first section. But at the same point, if you're going to do a development and you're going to put up a model home, you probably wouldn't do it lesser than other model homes, and you would be using that as your kind of your rallying point to create this for something that's going to happen and develop over the next decade for this community. So I really encourage you to listen to the people that do understand, because I think they're trying to do it right, and they understand that it costs a little bit more money, but long term it will pay for itself in the development and the quality of life in this community.
Mr. Schurslick, I'd just like to thank you for your patience waiting for us to fulfill our agreement with you. And I would just assume if we procrastinate very many more years on meeting this legal obligation, that the price tag will go up substantially.
I think you're right, Dee, and from the beginning, the Sharapa and the riverfront development and everything we did down there was a joint public-private partnership. And I believe a lot in that, to be honest, folks. Again, you got it. We sat down together. If you look at the little letter that I sent out, that's how simple I am. I just said, guys, we're going to go do this if you do this. And basically, we just went and did it. We didn't, I didn't even really need the contract when it comes down to it. But I'm glad I have it, and now we need to do it because it's the right thing for the community. And thank you.
Pat?
Yeah. Jeff, I'm just curious, back in the days when you guys were planning the whole development, I mean, what did you envision in the River Greenway? I mean, what was it going to be like?
Well, Pat, to be honest, it was continuing to evolve as we were kind of going through discussions, because the 2004, was the master plan, but there was additional thoughts as they were going along, and some of it was that they also realized that this was so that they were making commitments to us as we were negotiating the contract, so they were also looking at further development because I understand that you have to do certain things to go from one elevation to another, you have to create the things, so I don't know that there was a lot of detail, but the concept being is, I understood it to be a San Antonio concept. The idea being is that there is drawings that are more detailed than this, Pat, that do have, I think they showed them up here. So we relied upon that as I went out and attracted a restaurant, I attracted investors, I attracted tenants. So everything that we laid out there was the basic concept of what we believed would happen at Sharapa over time.
Well, I'd just like to echo, I guess, what Kermit and Dee both said. I mean, it's almost somewhat embarrassing being up here to knowing that we had this contract, that we didn't live up to it. And not only is it a contract, but I'd go a step, which I think you were trying to articulate, is that it's not just quality of life. I mean, the River Greenway is economic development, but it's how do we invest the dollars the most wisely. And I, for one, and it goes for all these projects. These are all wonderful projects. Yours happens that we have a contract with, and so certainly, I think that has to take a precedent. And I think everybody wants the River Greenway to happen, and we want it because we know it'll be good not only for quality of life but economic development. But we have to be smart about how we spend the dollars, and that's all we're trying to do here.
And like I say, I appreciate that. I don't have all those details, but I do think, and again, I am patient because remember, I'm a Sioux Falls citizen. I'm part of the team. This is a great joint venture that goes on, and that's how we get things done. So I do appreciate that you're also looking at my dollars in that way, and that you're doing it the most, I guess, realistic, but I also believe in doing things long-term, quality. It isn't always the cheapest. It's the best value. And I think that's a real important thing we got to look at.
Jeff, I'd like to remind you and everybody in this room, another reason that this was delayed and now is the time to do it is we put a large sewer main in down there on that side of the river last year. And that had to be completed before we could do anything else. So this is the next thing in the natural sequence.
Again,
Okay.
thank you,
Thanks,
folks.
Jeff.
I know it's tough, but I think, again, this is a great bond issue, and I'm awful proud of looking at how our city has managed itself over a long term to not being heavily in debt and doing the right things. So congratulations. Thank you.
Thank you. Further discussion? 19?
Good evening. Bob Timian, 2404 Carriage Court, Sioux Falls, 57108. I'm here as Treasurer CFO of the Ramcota Companies, Inc. We're a local business, and we are looking at developing with Schoenemann's on the Schoenemann site. Talked about our orientation towards the Greenway, towards the river. That's the idea. The drawings that we've had to date is a big item, and it's that what we can do with the riverfront, with the Riverwalk, whatever we're going to call that, as to how it goes, that it be done well. When I look at this, the meetings in 2004, the input that was there, when I look at this gem that we have in Sioux Falls, with really being on an island, and the bike path that goes all the way around, the park center there, the amenities, the envy that people from other communities look at Sioux Falls. Over the weekend, I was down at the Tri-State Ride in Sioux City. The Sioux City people are all aware, their bikers are aware of our bike trail and our park system, and say, we just wish we could have something like that in Sioux City. But it's great, but really when you look at the economic development, when people have talked about economic development, we're there, we're ready to develop, but we need to make sure that the river is taken care of, and that it's a great asset, and it is not a detriment at all as to what is there. People do what is right. We know that when the details come in there, people are going to take the correct actions. So we would certainly appreciate your support on these bonds.
Thanks, Bob. Others that wish to address council on item number 19?
Perry Hannibin. I reside at 6400 West 51st Street. Sioux Falls is a great community to live in, and I appreciate your service. It is said that it takes a community or a village to educate a child. And I would add to that that it takes an educated citizenry to educate our youth. Our public libraries are an important component. Our public schools cannot educate our children alone. Our libraries are open many more hours than our public schools are open. The libraries are open on weekends into the evening hours, and we all want, as a college professor, we want educated, literate students coming to our colleges. As business people, we want educated, literate citizens, and as community leaders, we need educated and literate citizens, and our libraries play a very important role in the education and in the quality of life of our citizens. I'd like to point out one interesting fact. A library on the west side, I think, is well needed, and perhaps certain areas might need this library more than others. But I think all of our citizens need the library. I'd like to point out and I am a strong supporter of the school system, and I know that the schools provided a more than adequate education to my children. But if we look at Hayward scores on the SA-10 abbreviated national percentile, if we look at third grade, statewide the scores were 64. The school for the Sioux Falls School District, it was 61. In the Hayward School District, it was 48 for third grade. If we look at fourth and fifth, the scores are equally low. We know that when neighborhood libraries appear, we know that scores go up. And it is my belief that if we place a school on the west side, many of the citizens that may have difficulties accessing other areas of our community would probably more easily access a library on the west side. The location would be very appropriate, given close access to a number of elementary schools, and access not only to a middle school, but also to close access to a high school. So the location for this library would be quite good. I think it's during these economic times that libraries become even more important. Sometimes individuals cannot afford to access some of the services privately, whereas a public library might afford that access. That would also pertain to the digital divide. Many citizens in the Hayward area may not be able to afford computer, internet access, and I believe that a library in this area might afford that kind of access for many of our citizens on this side of town. Again, I speak in support and hope for your vote in support of the libraries.
Thank you, Barry. Others wish to address council on item 19.
Hello, Mayor and members of the council. I'm Dan Hinbjergen with the Sioux Falls Development Foundation. I appreciate being here right now because if I was at home, I'd be watching the Twins lose to the Yankees again, and the score is 7-5 going into the ninth inning. All right. I'm with the Development Foundation, like I said, and what we do is to be the leader in creating quality economic growth in the region. And how do we do that? We do it through business attraction, we do it through business expansion, and we do it also through entrepreneurial development. We work with many companies and industries, but specifically we are aggressively going after those markets that need a highly qualified, well-educated, well-trained well-paid, professional workforce. And right now, our president, Slater Barr, is in Atlanta for the International Biotech Convention. One of our industries that we go after is biotechnology. He's there with members from the governor's office. He's there with the team from the South Dakota Biotech Association and also with other biotech companies from throughout the state, promoting our community as an ideal location for research and biotech development. It was 6 years ago or so, and some of you remember this, when we got into the business of attracting this type of industry, when we went after Hematech and we recruited Hematech to Sioux Falls. Quality of life issues were incredibly important to Hematech. They were recruiting top-notch scientists from all over the world, and they literally could have gone anywhere. When I was hosting their executives, we were on various quality of life tours, touring various attractions, schools, housing developments, hospitals, and et cetera. And there was always one question that came up to all of these places that we were visiting: will I be able to recruit people to Sioux Falls? It was incredibly important to them. And I remember one of our visits was over to the Great Hall at the Pavilion, and Jim Barton, the president of Hematech, was on the stage, and he said, "Wow, this is a real city. Quality of life does make a difference." As Mr. Cheddar mentioned, the hospitals are very competitive in recruiting their researchers and their medical staff. And why Sioux Falls? What makes us attractive? What puts us over the edge? It's incredibly competitive, not only to business out there, but also to communities and economic development. Prospective companies are very hard to come by. There are so many out there kicking tires, but very few of them are actually pulling the trigger. And every community across the country is looking for that competitive edge that makes them special. It's competitive for our hospitals. It was competitive for Hematech, and it's competitive for many other growing companies within our communities, such as First Premier Bank, Midland, Midco, SDN, and many more. I, too, urge you to vote yes to enhance our quality of life. It's an investment into our community because these companies give back to our community. New and expanding companies bring in new families, new homes, new shoppers, new customers, a broader tax base, and new good, or I would suggest great, community corporate citizens. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. Others that wish to address the council?
Good evening, Mayor and Councilman. I'm Dave Fleck. I'm wearing a couple of hats here tonight. I'm currently Chair of the Board of the Sioux Falls Area Chamber of Commerce, as well as President of Sioux Falls Construction Company. You know, for years, Sioux Falls has been recognized nationally for its quality of life and its economic vitality. Even recently, when other communities are making headlines for bad news, Sioux Falls is being touted that we're doing things right. Forbes magazine ranked our city as the best place for business and careers for 7 years running. The Los Angeles Times recently wrote about Sioux Falls' resiliency during the present national economic challenges. We can't lose sight of the hard work it takes to keep our city strong and vibrant. We cannot expect progress to just come to us and we sit back and do nothing. It takes vision, it takes leadership, it takes hard work to keep Sioux Falls moving forward. We can thank our predecessors for having the foresight to lay the groundwork and the infrastructure to build the quality of life that we all enjoy here today. The infrastructure that we develop today will lead us to greater heights and for future generations. And to me, infrastructure, which happens to be one of my favorite words, is more than just roads and bridges. Infrastructure is a community. It's an education system. It's art programs. It's recreation facilities. It's public safety. it's athletic opportunities, and it's neighborhoods. And those are just a few things that make up a community's infrastructure. And they make up that infrastructure just like the roads that take us to all those different places. The projects that are part of the Quality of Life Bond represent our future. Developing and improving the River Greenway project, enhancing the Great Plains Zoo, building a junior football complex, expanding library services to the west side. All of these projects will put employees and construction companies to work right now when the work we will have is a significant payoff. This will result in more building, more jobs, and more progress for our community. You've heard from a lot of others testifying here before me about all the reasons why these projects are high priorities for our community. The Chamber Board of Directors recommends the passage of the Quality of Life Bond that you will be voting on here tonight. We urge you to vote yes and to enhance our quality of life for our citizens and our whole community. And I'd be remiss if I didn't tell you the question came up about what that pedestrian bridge cost over at Southeast Tech. We built that bridge about 4 years ago at a contract price of $1.130 million. And there wasn't an old bridge to tear down. You know, we're investing in aesthetics in the River Greenway. We could all be sitting in a room that doesn't have beautiful millwork. We could be sitting on wood benches out here. But we believe in investing in aesthetics and a quality of place. And quality of place is what I believe this community is about. Thank you.
Thanks, Dave. Others that wish to address the council on item 19?
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. My name is Mike Hauk. I live at 4505 South Vista Lane, and I'm a commercial realtor here in town. I don't have a particular dog in this fight. That being said, I like football, I like libraries, I like zoos, I like the parks and River Greenway. They are all part of what makes our community what it is and makes us so proud of this community. I want to see this community continue to progress. In my work as a commercial real estate broker, I get the opportunity a lot of times to deal with people that are coming to our community for the first time and are thinking of locating their business here. And I can't tell you how proud I am to drive them around our community and to point out all of the wonderful things that we have. It's the place that I've chosen to make my home since 1989 and before, and it's a place a lot of people have chosen to make their homes, and it's in large part because of the quality of life that we offer here. And that quality of life means we have people moving here, which in large part shielded us from some of the negative impacts of the current economic situation that a lot of other places are suffering with. The quality of life component is I think, key to all of those things, and we need to keep moving forward on that. Not only will it help create jobs in the shorter term as these projects move forward, but they are, in fact, an investment. They are something that it's not just an expense, these are capitalized costs. They are adding to the useful life of our city and making it a more valuable asset. By approving the issuance of this quality of life bond, it shows that this community is committed to moving forward, to being positive, believing in itself, and advancing the ball. And as a football coach once told me, if you're not playing offense, you're playing defense. And so what I'd like to urge the council to do is to keep playing offense, keep making this a great city, moving it forward and advancing the ball. Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. Appreciate it. Others that wish to address 19?
Good evening. I'm Terry Ellis Schmidt with the Convention and Visitors Bureau, and I will be very brief this evening. Don't be shocked, but I really will be. Just one more thing I'd like to bring up. There have been so many very strong points brought up this evening. But one other item that I'd like to point out is please don't forget about the economic impact that these facility enhancements or projects as a whole would create for the community of Sioux Falls, especially in times when we are all looking to make our economy stronger. We're all trying to be more creative in ways to enhance our business structure. There are possibilities here that we're talking about that can increase visitor business. Look what the zoo has done, and look what the possibilities are. Think of the football complex, the sports complex, and the possibilities of teams coming in, visitors coming in. The Greenway, oh my gosh, I just get excited about it because planners that come to Sioux Falls are so impressed with our downtown. And then if we would enhance and do what we're talking about with our downtown, with the zoo, with the complex, with the library, think of the increased selling that we could do. Dan Hinbjorgen talked about what planners are looking for. I mean, they can go anywhere in the country and create a business, build a business, or hold a convention or a meeting. But it's all of these quality of life issues that we so enjoy that can be shared with our visitors when we're always talking about bringing visitors to our home, to Sioux Falls. This is what we want to share with them. It's economic development. It's visitor business. They'll spend money here. Sales tax, room tax, create jobs, economic development. So I urge you to approve the bond. Thank you.
Thanks, Terry. Others?
Mayor Munson, members of the council, Bob O'Connell with the Sioux Falls Area Chamber of Commerce. Opportunity is defined as a combination of favorable circumstances. The city, as you have heard, has been very circumspect in spending and borrowing, thus creating a favorable chance to take advantage of circumstances. At the school board meeting I recently attended, the following was reported. A competitive bidding environment has proved to be beneficial to the Sioux Falls School District as it begins its construction on its new career and educational academy. Construction bids have come in almost $2 million under the architect's estimate. In Sioux Falls, because of our good money management, we can take advantage of almost historical low interest rates. We can take advantage of a turndown in the building in our community that could generate lower bids for the quality of life bond projects that we're talking about here tonight. And finally, we have a chance to put to work our own citizens who find themselves, for no fault of their own, unable to find employment. It's a win-win-win for all of us. You've heard all the testimony from all the groups here tonight that have studied these projects. These groups have agreed the projects are important for the city and are definite city needs and even legal requirements. Sioux Falls citizens reviewed the projects and made recommendations to fund them. The Chamber agrees that these projects are necessary and important economic development tools. The funding is available at a very favorable rates. Why wait until some other time when rates are higher and bids are greater to buy what you need? It doesn't make common sense to place yourself in a favorable position to buy what you need and then wait for prices to go up to make your purchases. Let's do the right thing for the taxpayers and make the best deal while it's still available. Thank you.
Thanks, Bob. Others who wish to address the council on item number 19? Others that wish to address the council? See no one that is coming forward, so...
I would like to make a motion to approve item number 19.
Second, Litz.
Knutson.
Knutson made a motion to approve. Litz seconded. Further comments?
Yes. Tonight, of course, we're going to be voting on a quality of life bond. However, I think the question must be raised now, what is the quality of life for Sioux Falls citizens? Citizens in Sioux Falls are losing jobs, and now we're approaching an unemployment rate of 5%. Citizens in Sioux Falls are having reductions in salaries and benefits. And also, citizens in Sioux Falls are worried about losing their own job. Now, what is the quality of life for the city government of Sioux Falls? This year we have a record budget of $412 million, but we also have a carryover over $80 million from last year. So this year, the city of Sioux Falls is authorized to spend $1.5 billion. Tonight, the city wants to borrow $18.5 million, and with interest, we'll be having a total cost of $27 million. spending $27 million on low-priority items. I think most citizens of Sioux Falls realize there are much more important things we should be spending our money on than some of these items we talked about tonight. Does this make sense? No. Now is not the time to borrow money. Remember the citizens of Sioux Falls and vote no on borrowing this money.
Mr. Mayor, if I might, Mr. Staggers addresses the economically deprived folks here in Sioux Falls, and there's a lot of them. And I'm a builder, and I had one terrible winter here this year. But I, for one, don't want this city to stop and take a sigh for Bob Letts. I want to move ahead, get things going again, because what's the other plan? To stand still? If you're standing still, you're going backwards, and I don't want to do that. I'd just as soon this council be known as progressive, forward-thinking, and looking towards the future instead of frozen in the moment.
Further comments? We've got a motion for us. Go ahead.
Well, Councilor Staggers, all due respect, I think I need to take a little bit different spin on yours. I think all these projects are very valuable and very important to the city. My concern is that we know that our financial position is not the same as it was a year ago, and something's got to give. Something has got to give. If I knew that we had a plan to fund the 9 police officers that we're going to hire in the next 2 years, or the 15 firefighters that we're going to have to hire, or the $2 million that we're going to have to do to build a fire station in 2011, and all the other life safety things that we have, I would wholeheartedly support this bond issue. But the fact is that we're 6 weeks out from getting that budget, and I don't understand for a minute how we can consciously even consider the bond when we have such a short distance before we can see the plan. Now, granted, the mayor, the administration, and everybody else is on top of that, and they're looking at it, but I took an oath to make a best judgment as I could for the citizens of Sioux Falls, and I'm not willing to go at it blind. Relying on them to do the right. I need to see the proof in my hands. I need the time to digest it. I need to know it. I need to understand it. Earlier today, one counselor said when we were talking about the homeless shelter with the county, it was a $130,000 impact on our operating budget, and that counselor said that, well, we haven't seen the operating budget. How can we commit to spending $130,000 out of our operating budget when we haven't seen it? It's absolutely right. I will guarantee you that this is a much larger expense than $130,000 out of our operating budget. It absolutely is.
Go ahead, Vernon.
When is the right time to do something like this? This morning I was in a conversation with someone who talked about one of our crown jewels in this city is the River Greenway and the bike paths and what that lends to the city. You know when those were built? They were first adopted in 1975. What was the inflation rate in 1975? 20+%? Yet they had the vision and the courage to move the city forward and create one of the best assets that we have in Sioux Falls. As we heard, the percentage of the debt is decreasing as compared to the level of the sales tax collections we have. Less percentage of the CIP is going to debt service than we've had in past years. 3 out of 4 of these projects are partnerships with the business community and philanthropists in the community, which says a lot about the optimism of our economy in Sioux Falls. 3 of 4 of these, as Terry pointed out, really 4 of 4, will generate visitors to our city, which in turn will increase sales taxes. All will improve life here. And Dave Fleck said it best. Infrastructure is about more than streets today. In today's world, when people choose where to live before choosing where to work in a job, infrastructure is library access. Infrastructure is a complex where we can play. Infrastructure is usable outdoor spaces, a river greenway, and the zoo. This is the infrastructure of today's cities, and we need to continue to invest in that and move our city forward.
Well, although I always have great respect for all of my colleagues' opinions on these more controversial issues, and less controversial ones too, I guess I just would like to say that I have full confidence in the finance director's work, and as was stated earlier by Councilor Brown, is that the staffing program that, now that our city is working on staffing programs 5 years out, that gives me more confidence than when I was first a city councilor, though I've always felt very confident about how we run our city fiscally. And I'd just also like to just remind my good friend and colleague, Councilor Costello, and others who are struggling more than I am on this decision, which is frankly a very easy one for me, is that I think currently, we have like $35 million in reserves, and I just don't, I guess as a city councilor, not because I only have 1 year left on the city council, but I just think we have to, we're a very progressive community, but very responsible financially, and I just think we need to keep moving forward. And these 4 projects, again, I've been on the council a little bit longer than a few of you up here, but we've been talking about these projects for years. That's why it takes us so long in government to get things done. That's why the cost does get to be so much sometimes, because we talk about them and talk about them and talk about them for years and years. I can remember Councilor Darren Smith was talking about a West Side Library, almost before I was sworn into office, and it's taken us this long to even get this far. So I have full confidence in our finances here, and I really encourage a yes vote.
I feel very comfortable with where we're at with the operating budget and where we're going to be. And when you look at the projects, Mike Cooper, I don't know, when you do the River Greenway, I don't know what increase that's going to be in the staffing. That's after we get it built. And Don Carney back there, when you look at the football fields, we'll have that summer help that'll come, and they'll be with Elmwood and that part there. The zoo, that's going to be Elizabeth's concern. That's not our concern. We aren't going to add any there. The library, I really do feel very strongly that the library is a very important part, and we'll still meet the staffing needs with what we said where we're going to be, because I think that on that part, when you got 55,000 people, and I'm a strong advocate of libraries, I think they're absolutely important in a community, and those people over in the west side have waited for a long time for that library. Putting it where we're proposing to build that, I think makes all the sense in the world. So, most of the projects are going to be projects that aren't really going to take a lot of. The library, we're going to work through that when we get that open. So, Gene, we've already worked that in there. So, I don't know what else to tell you. I just don't know. So, go ahead.
And again, all of these projects have merit to me, and one's, I think I said, a contractual obligation, one's clearly economic development, and 2 are quality of life. Of course, they're necessary, but everybody came up here and advocated for their particular project. Some were all, but inherent in every one of their implications was that we have a safe city, that we have fire protection, we have adequate police force. And we know, we saw graphs months ago that showed that we were going to go into our reserve balance on our operating fund, and these projects may not impact our operating fund, but I want to know, are we going to still build that fire station in 2011 like we planned? And what's the impact of that going to be? And if we're going to hire police officers, or we have money outside of the COPS grant, because there's $8 billion of requests for the COPS grant, and there's $1 billion of money. So are we going to get all that funding?
Let me tell you this: when I was elected, I think we've hired like 44 officers or something that we put on the police force. So you can't say we haven't done that.
No,
and we'll continue to do it. But do you just want to? I guess the choice is, Pat, if we want to just say let's hire police officers and let everything else go, then that's. But we're planning for what we have to do, and that's what we're looking at, Pat. We're not going to try to shortchange anybody. When the fire station, we're looking at whether it goes in southeast, northwest, where we're going to do. We know we have to do that, but geez, Gene, come here. I'm just saying that we've looked at all these things and we built them into the plan.
Well, what I can reiterate is we have a planning process that is considerably different than in a lot of municipalities, and that is that the directors all work together to develop the budget. And in doing that, it really works on a consensus basis. Everybody has to be happy in the process and has to feel that they can complete their tasks and their assigned duties with whatever the resources are that are made available. And that process is working this year very, very well. And as I said before, both the police chief and the fire chief are involved in it, deeply involved in both the CIP and the operating fund budget. And it's a process that, yes, we've seen some tough times, and there is a downturn, but we're okay. We will be all right. We will be able to react with thought and judicious understanding and not have to make knee-jerk reactions to anything, and we're not going to end up in a crisis in the situation here that we have in Sioux Falls. You can rest your...
And I agree with you, Pat, on the police. I think that cops grant's a long way out there with the request versus what they've got appropriate. But we're still building that into ours without it.
Those things are all being considered in how we're putting the plan together.
Okay, can I just to the heart of the question here, why can't we defer this for a few weeks and let us take a look at the budget? Where's the harm? Where's the harm in this? What's going to get done this year in 2009? Nearest I can tell, there's a little bit of engineering, but there's not a shovel that's going to go in the ground in 2009. It's all in 2010. Why can't we have the opportunity to take a look at the budget and react to that at that time? I don't understand how it sets anything back.
Bonds, where the bonds are at.
There will be a lot start to happen, and they have to have the bond money in the bank before we can do much of anything. We can't start too many projects. We can start a little bit. We can do a little cash flowing out of the CIP fund, but we need to get these bonds issued. It is a very opportune time. You heard Jessica say that interest rates are down around 4%. That is a very favorable rate. It'd be the lowest that we've been able to get anywhere. And if you look back through what's been going on in parks and in public works, the bids are coming in very, very good. We're probably going to get the best pricing you're going to get in a long time. The specter of inflation is starting to wiggle around out there. It's a year to 2 years out. We're going to have an inflation problem because of all the money that's been printed, and we're going to pay a lot more for it then. Much better to borrow that money today and pay it back with inflated dollars 2, 3, 4, 5 years from now than to wait and see what happens.
Gene, I couldn't agree 100%. I agree absolutely 100% with you. And I'm not talking about deferring this until 2010. I'm talking about deferring it until August or maybe July. Really, when we know we get the CIP budget June 1st, and whenever you can present us with the operating budget, give us a chance to look at it, and then we can move on this. I mean, I don't understand the 2 or 3 month.
My understanding is there is a lot of stuff can get done, and maybe we should have Don come up here and talk about the loss of opportunity that we have. We get too late in the year, it causes a whole cycle to fall out for him in getting the fields done. That's one of the big things going on that you have there. All of these projects, except the library. Library will be a little bit slower, but all the other three, we will hit the ground as hard as we can to get those bonds issued, get a good rate on them, and get them out there so we can get to work and get as much in this season yet. Yes, we've lost some already, but it's not totally lost by any means.
Yeah, Gene, and I specifically went through every one of those presentations and asked what we were going to do. And with the junior football fields, there was $300,000 of site work that was going to get done. I can't believe that $300,000 of excavation or site work can't be made up next year. I understand what you're talking about regarding one growing season. We don't want to lose a growing season. But I don't understand how deferring this for 60 days, 90 days, whatever, is going to impact that. I think we can still get these bonds issued this year, and we can still make up all the ground we may have lost.
The difference is we know today that we can do these bonds for approximately 4%, maybe even less, according to our financial advisor. We don't know that 60 days from now. This is something that we talk about. We talk about derivatives and funny things like that, and I really irritate people when I say you cannot avoid making interest rate projections. You just can't do it. People like to think that they can, but they can't. If we don't take these interest rates today at the levels that they're at, we're making an assumption that those rates will be better 60 or 90 days from now than they are today. That's a projection that you're making. And frankly, I will take the 4% and stick the money in my pocket today and know what I've got, and rather than waiting 90, even 60 days to figure out what's going on.
No, I'm not making any projections on interest rates in the future, but I don't think...
But you are, Pat. You are. You cannot not make interest rate. When you say delay, you automatically make an interest rate adjustment, an interest rate forecast. If you don't do it deliberately, you do it by de facto, because you...
Couldn't the interest rates go down?
Sure they could.
So we just don't know.
But what's the odds, now if you want to have that discussion, what's the odds of the interest rates going down further versus what's the odds of interest rates going up? I would say there's an 80% chance that they're not going down. An 80% chance that they'll go up, a 20% chance you'll get a favorable one going down more.
So what you're saying to me is just go along with this, trust me, the budget looks great.
That's what we get paid to do.
I'm not comfortable with that. I would make a substitute motion to defer until September 8th.
Second, Anderson.
September 8th. Costello and Anderson. Further comments on the deferral until September 8th? All in favor of that motion, vote yes. Those opposed, no.
Councilmember Spanninga?
Yes.
Brown?
No.
Costello?
Yes.
Jamison?
No.
Knutson?
No.
Litz?
No.
Staggers?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Munson?
Mayor.
No. Back to the main motion before us. Further comments? Go ahead.
Let's just say we get the cart in front of the horse here and we build these 4 items. And in a couple of years, we need to hire 5 or 6 librarians, maybe a guy to do the landscape or cut the grass out the ballpark or the football fields. Walk me through the process here. If Mayor, if you find yourself with not enough money to pay all these employees, what is our role? How does that work?
Gene, you're saying that, and we put the 5-year plan out there for staffing.
Our plan so far, that you know what the 09 is, what we're working on in 010, we have a good 3 years that we can go through those 3 years without any difficulty as far as reserves and that we'll have. We'll stay within the policy levels that you have of being 25% reserve ratio, and we can plan accordingly. As far as the staffing goes, that staffing is being cranked into the plan. It's a lot of work being put into how that's going to be done, and that's about all I can tell you about it.
Okay, Bob.
Mr. Mayor, I recall we were talking about doing this last year, and we put it off this winter because we thought it would be prudent to do so. I also recall in that budget, I thought we had 22 full-time employees that was creating quite a few folks looking at the budget there, and we didn't hire anybody. So we did the prudent thing, and right now with a renewed sense of optimism for the future of the economy, I think it's just time to go ahead here. You know, and Pat, I hear what you're saying, but I've kind of already thought this stuff through, and we are going to miss out on a season here, and it's going to put everything back a year if we go ahead and defer this thing until August. That's just the plain, simple facts of it. You're another year out. We've got 120 days left of the building season here in South Dakota. I've seen it, and you've seen it snow at the end of October, and then it's over. It's done for the year. So I think that, we need to move ahead with this thing.
We got a motion before us.
Sorry, I had to give my little speech here on approval process here. You know, last couple of months we had some community forums, and the number 2 item that a lot of the same people that are here spoke about was that they wanted the Greenway project and they wanted a library on the west side. I think everybody here, probably except maybe one counselor, agrees that these are all good items and necessary. I think it all boils down to the timing and maybe the budget, if we can afford it or not. And the debt load, I think, is fine, is what I can understand. It's it really comes down to, in these trying times, when the rest of the city is struggling, should we be borrowing money like this? And the one thing I learned, the biggest thing I learned from the community forum that we had, was that in difficult times like this, you lean into it. And I would encourage us to lean into it, because you could just fall back and let the wind and let this unknown, uncertain times push you backwards. But I think the direction I received from the community leaders that came to our forum was that you lean into it, you push forward, you go for it. And I think that's what we're going to get if we pass this bond, is we're going to get an opportunity to go for it and improve Sioux Falls. You know, as far as borrowing this money, I don't know if it's possible, but in general lending principles, the borrower would put some money down on an item like this. If we were borrowing a house, there'd be a certain amount of money you'd have to put down. Maybe that's a principle that we can institute here, that we need to take a portion of our second penny funds and use it as a down payment. More so as a matter of principle, that we are willing to commit to projects, but we're not going to extend ourselves more than we really should. I don't know if that's possible. I know Gene and I talked a little bit about it. Certainly the city has assets and capital and collateral, but maybe as an attempt here as a council, as a compromise, maybe there's something we can do to really put some skin in the game, so to speak, right away.
The thing, Mayor, the thing we need to keep in mind was really that last line graph that you saw up there. That's got a negative slope to it as far as the debt that we've got coming on, even what we got coming on the books. And you've got you'll have close to 80% of the CIP after debt service to spend on whatever you want to spend it on. The key is we have plenty of debt or plenty of room in the debt structure to fund this operation. And as far as the idea of a down payment, you really get that down payment approach when you look at the covenants that we have to sign in the lending process. And we just signed one Friday, I think it was. It had a 1.1 to 1 ratio, debt coverage service ratio. We've got a couple that have 1.25. That's essentially the down payment down there that you have to have by covenant. It would be similar to what you're talking about in your house. In reality, you've got a council has set a policy out there that it will be 2 to 1, not 1.1 to 1 or 1.25 to 1, 2 to 1. And you saw on that graph that you are a long, long ways from even your own internal imposed policy, which is good because it gives you a lot of room. If we need to do something drastic, we've got a lot of room to do that, and we want to guard that carefully, and we want to treat it very prudently. But it is there, and the debt service that you're talking about, you're only using up 20% of your capacity. It seems to me like it's perfectly rational to borrow this money under the terms and conditions that we're looking at.
A motion before us is made and seconded to approve item 19. See no further discussion. All in favor of the motion to approve?
You want to, Joe?
Go ahead.
Okay. Well, Gene's making a good point here that we can borrow this money, but, you know, a lot of citizens in Sioux Falls can go out and borrow money right now if they want to. But they're being a little bit more prudent than the city of Sioux Falls is. And so, especially during this time of economic downturn, I don't think it's good for us to set a bad example here for the citizens of Sioux Falls, especially for those citizens now watching us on TV. They might have lost their job last week, and they're seeing us borrowing all this money here while they're in desperate financial straits. And this is a very, very poor message that we're sending to all the citizens of Sioux Falls. Remember what I said in my comments earlier? I said now is not the time to borrow this money. And I believe this even more strongly. This is not the time. We don't have to do this now. Pat has already mentioned we might be able to delay this. Or, hey, You know, another thing it might be good to do is, hey, let's delay this until we have good times here in Sioux Falls. We don't have to do this now. These projects we have, yes, are nice projects, but we don't have to do these right now at all. We can wait on this. There's nothing that says the city of Sioux Falls is going to collapse if we don't pass this tonight. It's not. Sioux Falls is going to continue on. It's not because of all the city spending that we do. The reason Sioux Falls is such a great city is because we have quality people here who work really hard. It's not all this spending that we do that makes Sioux Falls great. It's the people of Sioux Falls. And I think we ought to respect the citizens of Sioux Falls tonight by rejecting this. As I said before, we can take a look at this when times are better.
Okay, go ahead.
You know, I wished we had a chance to look at it. You know that. I would hope, I could see a plan where we could get some of these things done without bonding, but you have to have the opportunity to take a look at the projects. I mean, my main concern is the operating fund, and what we're doing here is going to affect the operating fund, and I suspect we will end up using our reserves, millions and millions and millions of dollars of reserves, and it may take more than 1 year. But I don't know. It'd be nice to have that information. That's my number one concern. But if that doesn't happen, I could see a plan where we could do some of these things over the next couple of years without bonding, that we could maybe pick up the River Greenway, and we might have a little bit different vision of the River Greenway and whether it's got a pedestrian bridge in the existing railroad or not. We can hammer those things out. But we can do a pedestrian, or we can do the River Greenway in 2010. We can come back and see where we're at a year from now, and maybe things are going better for us, and we can maybe catch the zoo and do some of that because they are so far along on their funding. Over a course of years, we can get these things done. I am not for a moment saying that these should be eliminated from the capital improvement program, but I don't think the fire station in 2011 should be eliminated either.
Okay, we got a motion made and seconded.
Well, I could wait 6 weeks to make a decision, but I can't wait a year. The community appeals process takes 3 to 5 years to get into that cycle, so we'll miss that cycle for at least that period of time. I've been through that. I know how competitive it is. I also think we do miss a year of construction season if we don't get started this year. But the other thing is we violate not so much the legal contracts, because Jeff would sue us if he had a chance, probably, anyhow.
He's calling you now. He's calling you.
It might be him. The real issue is I think we violate trust with public-private partnerships. We constantly are asking people to be part of a contract and to be part of a union, if you will, to make things work better in this community. And if we violate that, where do we go next and ask people to be part of a partnership that say, I'm sorry, you didn't do what you said you were going to do for the last number of years? I think that's the bottom line. Regardless of what our concerns are about the operating budget, we've got $42 million in an operating budget reserve. It's 35% of our budget. We have been very prudent regardless of what you read or hear from other people. I think this is the right time. We'll save the money in the bidding process and in the interest rates of the bonds, and it's time for us to move forward, and I think we need to do that. So I would urge your support.
Okay, we've got a motion before us. It's made and seconded to approve item 19. Seeing no further discussion, all in favor of approving item 19 will vote yes. Those opposed, no.
Councilmembers Benega?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
Costello?
No.
Jamison?
Yes.
Knutson?
Yes.
Litz?
Yes.
Stagers?
No.
Anderson?
I'm sorry, I'm still very conflicted over this. No.
5 yes, 3 no. Item 19 has been approved. Okay, let's go to 20.
Second reading, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, amending the revised ordinances of the city by amending the traffic ordinances as found in Chapter 40 of the revised ordinances of Sioux Falls, South Dakota.
Mr. Mayor, council members, my name is Jerome Miller. I'm the traffic lieutenant for the police department. This is the second reading for the proposal of adding language to City Ordinance 40-226, which will allow public parking and public safety personnel to operate vehicles on the city sidewalk, which currently is not permitted.
Okay, questions of Jerry and, go ahead.
Yeah, Jerry, in reading this, I noticed we don't have any provision in Sioux Falls for sedgeways. What do you think about if we could maybe add sedgeways into this?
Are you asking my opinion or the department's opinion?
Well, I guess, we want to try to encourage people to, get around different ways other than just simply, driving cars. If we could let them use sedgeways, on sidewalks, that might be a good thing to do.
The concern, I guess, that we had when we looked at this was turning the entire public population loose with electric segways or those types of vehicles on the city sidewalk where most people think that they should be able to walk safely. We don't have any provisions for training or anything of that type of nature for that. And
but we have bicycles being allowed.
That's true. We don't have a very big population that actually drive bicycles when you look at the 150,000 people.
And we have zero sedgeways.
That's true. They're currently under the city ordinance. They are not permitted, and they wouldn't. The way it's written right now, they wouldn't be permitted either.
Yes.
Yeah.
Further questions of Jerry? Others that wish to address the council on item number 20? Is there a motion to approve?
I move for approval of item number 20, Knutson.
Knutson moves. Is there a second?
Second, Litz.
Litz seconded. Further comments?
Well, I'll just try this out, Mayor. I'll just move to add sedgeways after bicycle.
Motion is add segways after bicycles. Is there a second? That dies for lack of second, so we're back to the main motion that's been made and seconded. Further comments? All in favor of the motion to approve item 20, vote yes. Those no. Opposed, no.
Councilmembers Benega?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
Costello?
Yes.
Jamison?
Yes.
Knutson?
Yes.
Litz?
Yes.
Stegers?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
All members present voted. Item 20 has been approved 8-0. Item 21.
First reading, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, rezoning property at southeast corner of Southeastern Avenue and East 41st Street from the sub-area E of the Brady Estates Plan Development District to the C4 Plan Commercial District, petition number 2009-0404, and amending the official zoning map of the City of Sioux Falls.
Again, I'm Mike Cooper with Planning and Building Services tonight. We have a number of first readings to go through quickly based on the Planning Commission meeting from last month. This is a request by Ronnie Commercial to rezone the existing convenience store and retail center along Southeastern, north of Marson Drive. The Planning Commission has recommended denial of this by a vote of 4-2, primarily because of concerns about potential additional signage in this area. We are meeting with the applicant, the owners, and we are attempting to work out a sign package that we believe will be acceptable to the neighborhood. And so we're working towards that, and we wanted to keep this on track for a date of hearing for June 1st.
Questions of Mike?
Yes. Mike, your staff approved this, though, right?
The staff recommendation was to approve it, yes.
I mean, I guess I'm really surprised that the Planning Commission would just reject this just because of some signs. Can you explain that a little bit more? Why?
When this zoning was approved about 15 years ago, one of the stipulations was that any future sign requests or changes would have to come back to the Planning Commission for approval. And so by changing the zoning to what we call conventional commercial, that stipulation would go away. And so there were two planning commissioners that were okay with that, but four didn't necessarily like the idea.
So, Mike, am I to understand, are you looking to defer this, or
No.
what's?
Nope. Just
Okay, so what you're saying is that you'll be able to work that out with Ronnie?
by the time of second reading
By the
is
time.
what we're working towards, correct?
Okay, let's go to 22.
22 was referred back to the Land Use Committee.
Oh, wait, 23.
First reading, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, amending the revised ordinances of the city by revising location of accessory buildings.
This is a city-initiated request to clarify our zoning ordinance that talks about setbacks for accessory buildings. We're not changing the setbacks, but we're just modifying the language to make it easier to understand what those are. This would be for things like detached garages or other structures within a rear yard. And again, the setbacks are not being proposed to change. It's just the way that the language is in the ordinance to clarify it.
Questions? 23?
Mike, what's the difference between this and the way things have been? Is it the 10-foot if it's detached?
Yes, it's still 10 feet. Yeah. I don't know if we can put the ordinance up on the screen, but right now the ordinance says accessory structures, and we're changing that to detached buildings, just to clarify what that means.
Okay, because accessory structure could be a swing set, that
Right,
type of thing.
yeah.
Okay.
A structure is not necessarily a building.
So then, what you're saying, that, I mean, you're just separating structures from the building, because the building has always been 10 foot, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, okay.
Yep, we're modifying the language to the way that we've been interpreting it.
Okay, all right.
Okay,
Yeah.
go ahead.
I guess I'm just wondering, if you have a garage that's within 10 feet of the main building, who cares if the garage is, further behind the house and doesn't meet the same setback requirement? Who cares?
Who cares? It's based on fire code requirements.
That doesn't, can you explain that further then? I guess I don't see.
Okay, why don't you ask your question again?
Okay, let's suppose we have a home. Okay, then you have a detached garage. This is saying that it's within 10 feet of the main building, then it has to have the same setback as the house.
Correct.
And I'm just saying, why?
That's for fire safety purposes.
Well, it doesn't make any sense.
Well,
So what if the house has a front setback of, I'm just making this up, 20 feet, and the garage has 25 feet? So what? Doesn't make any difference. I mean, so what?
I guess if you're opposed to all setback requirements, that would be your argument.
Well, I think that, when we talk about unreasonable setbacks, everybody should be against that. And this is what we have here,
I don't know that
unreasonable
we've ever had
setbacks.
complaints that these are unreasonable, Counselor. We're not changing the setback requirements.
You might not be changing it, but it can still be very unreasonable. And this doesn't even make sense, because we can't get an answer.
Mr. Mayor. I'd like to point out that I believe that this ordinance, 10 foot is the minimum. You can have it 20 foot back if you've got the lot big enough, and this is for fire code. And there are exceptions to the fire code, too, if you improve the building's fire restivity on the outside.
Firewall construction.
So there are exceptions to it, but the 10 foot is the minimum for fire safety.
Closer than 10 feet, yes. We're talking about closer than 10 feet. This detached building's closer than 10 feet.
Yes, then you start, it's for fire safety. If one building catches fire, they don't want the other one to catch fire. You can go 20 foot if you want, if you've got the lot for it, but it's 10 foot is the minimum. Am I interpreting that right, Mike?
It says the same setback. It's going to have the same setback.
Yes.
It doesn't make sense.
Well,
It doesn't. Well, I'll ask it again anyway, so don't
shot
worry.
at it. 24.
First reading, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, amending the revised ordinances of
Doesn't
the
make
city
sense.
by adding language for property owner notification to the rezoning procedure.
This is a city-initiated request based on discussions with the Land Use Committee and other counselors about our process for notification, where we have more than one property owner involved in a rezoning petition.
Questions of Mike on item 24? 25.
First reading, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, rezoning property at 816 South Covell Avenue from the Sanford USD Medical Center Plan Development District to the RS2 Residential District, petition number 2009-0321, and amending the official zoning map of the City of Sioux Falls.
This is a follow-up to the discussion that we had when we did the major rezoning for Sanford Health Systems, which involved a number of private properties. And we went back and notified there were 26 private properties approved as part of that rezoning request. And we went back and re-notified them and talked to them, and 25 of them are okay with the zoning change as approved by the city council. This particular property, which is owned by Thomas Scaff, S-K-A-F-F, did request to go back to the traditional residential zone.
Questions? Okay, 26.
First reading, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, rezoning property at the northwest corner of West 54th Street North and North Marion Road from the AG Agricultural District to the RS2 and RD Residential Districts and the University Hills Village Plan Development District, petition number 2009-0313, and amending the official zoning map of the City of Sioux Falls.
This property is in the northwest corner of Marion Road and 54th Street, and it's about 81 acres in size. And the proposed development plan that we've been working with on behalf of the applicant, which is Jared Smart, representing Universal Properties, would divide the site up into about 31 acres of residential, and the balance would be a mix of commercial, office, and multifamily residential.
Questions? 27.
First reading, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, rezoning property at 4200 South Sycamore Avenue from the RA1 Residential District to the Eastern Hills Plan Development District, petition number 2009-0420, and amending the official zoning map of the City of Sioux Falls.
This property is along South Sycamore Avenue between 49th and 53rd Street on the east side of Sycamore. Gary Haar with Eastern Hills Development is requesting approval on about a 5-acre tract of land. He would be developing 2 48-unit apartment buildings and 4 4-unit apartment buildings.
So questions? 28.
First reading, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, a major amendment, petition number 2009-0323 to Chapter 15.45.070, Plan Development Districts at 1105 West 73rd Street, amending the Diamond Valley Plan Development District sub-area regulations.
This property is located west of South Cliff Avenue and south of 73rd Street. It's Diamond Valley is the development, Dunham Companies. This site was previously approved for a 4-plex, and now the request is to change it to an 8-unit building.
Questions? 29.
First reading, an ordinance to authorize the issuance of special assessment bonds in the amount not to exceed $2,500,000 and to redeem bond anticipation notes issued for the purposes of providing interim financing of street improvement projects.
This is a ordinance to authorize the issuance of bonds to pay off the bond anticipation notes that we issued for several street projects that were in the plan for the last year or so. And we can run these 18 months. The 18-month period runs out as of June 30th, when we will have to assess all of the work that's been done, and what that comes up to is about right now about $2.5 million. That number may go down depending on how many pay off between now and June 30th, when they're assessed of their amounts due for the streets that are constructed.
Questions? None. Is there a motion to set the hearing date for items 21 through 29 for June 1st? Let's move. Is there a second?
Second, Jamison.
Jamison seconded. The motion set the hearing date for items 21 through 29 for June 1st. All in favor of that motion, vote yes. Those opposed, no.
Councilmembers Benega?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
Costello?
Yes.
Jamison?
Yes.
Knutson?
Yes.
Litz?
Yes.
Staggers?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
All members present voted. The hearing date has been set for June 1st for items 21 through 29, 8-0. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So move, Anderson.
Anderson, is there a second?
Second, Brown.
Brown seconds. For the comments. All in favor? Yes. Opposed? No.
Councilmembers Benega?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
Costello?
Yes.
Jamison?
Yes.
Knutson?
Yes.
Litz?
Yes.
Staggers?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Stand adjourned.